before we get into this uninterrupted Unclicked podcast with Brandon Semenuk, we got our sponsor, Traction Coffee. Tell them all about it, Ryan Fudger, RBMX.
$5 of every bag that you purchase goes towards buying a plane ticket for somebody to come to the podcast. So, no, not an actual sponsorship, but more of an actual collab to get somebody special on the podcast.
Do they have to buy any bag of Traction Coffee, or is it?
I think it's the Unclicked one only. Yeah, so that's it's supposed to show up today, oddly enough, but I'll put a little graphic or a little video clip.
Yeah. So basically, all the money's going to get. Aren't we going to ask who the fans want?
I guess comments or whatever. I think at a point we'll just take a top 5 and then do a poll or something on YouTube. I don't know.
I saw something about Aiken.
I know. I mean, Aiken's the obvious choice, but there's we'll
take a poll. The first one.
Somebody brought up Danny Hickerson the other day.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
You know what I mean? Yes. There's so many people if you really boil it down.
Harrington.
Harrington.
Oh, so buy Traction Coffee, rider-owned, badass coffee, and all that money goes to bringing in the fan pick guest. Edwin, whoever they want. Yeah. We'll bring him out, and then, we'll do it again. Keep doing the Traction Coffee sponsored plane ticket.
Yeah, that'd be sick. That's a goal. Guest. Keep something, keep the podcast going.
Cool. Thank you, Traction Coffee, our first sponsor. And we're moving right into it. Brandon Semenuk, you are down in San Diego. He's just here for a 48-hour little staycation vacation, but thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I got kicked out of my Airbnb, and I don't have to head to Washington for a few days. I figured I'd switch it up, come hang out down here for a few days.
Yeah, so you're normally up in Santa Cruz? Is that where you were?
Yeah, so for years now, since I was 14, I just spend my winters in Santa Cruz area. Aptos, there's always been a really big mountain bike scene. It's kind of gotten smaller these days, but I've just a lot of my close friends are there and still lots of cool spots to ride. So it's my winter spot, get away from the snow in Canada. And yeah, this
That's
year
cool.
it's kind of been
14.
Yeah, a long time, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's always just, so that must be a huge hub in Santa Cruz for mountain biking. Because it's pretty crazy down here. It's so BMX orientated. Besides Christian and a few of our friends now out in East County area, mountain biking is so small here. But when I've gone up to Santa Cruz with you guys, it seems like such an amazing scene.
Yeah. We've had a really big scene. I mean, at one point it thrived. It was we had post office jumps and stuff like that. Obviously there's always been great trails, but then there was a lot of jump scene, and you'd be at post office in the winter, and no one calls anyone. You just show up evening session. There'd be 9 athletes from 9 different countries. Just so random.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's everyone's riding.
The Austin mountain bike.
100%. Yeah, it was a really good hub for a while, and then it kind of died off a bit when post office went away, and it's been slow with COVID. Obviously people aren't traveling so much, and
is it kind of a place where a lot of people escape winters to go there?
It was like that for a long time, and it just a lot of people moved out. So the scene, the core scene really shrunk. And I mean, people still come and go and they do little trips, but it's not everyone's hanging out there anymore. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's it's still it's home away from home. It's where my girlfriend's from, and my really close friends Ryan Howard and Owen Marks and all those dudes are they're there. So
that's really cool. Two amazing places to call home,
Yeah.
Because Vancouver probably gets pretty gnarly in the winter, as in riding wise, rain and snow.
Yeah. It's just it's even when it's dry and the trails are open, or maybe you could ride some jumps. It's just so cold that you're not getting anything done. You're feels like your bones are gonna shatter.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we going to go on this one? Brandon Semenuk, this is actually the first. We've done BMX filmers, BMXs, BMX, and Brandon is a BMXer. I've rode with you. You're insanely talented on all bikes, but mountain biking is kind of what you've always honed in, and you're known as the mountain bike god to all of us BMXers. So did you just kind of
You're known to us as the Dennis of mountain biking, unfortunately.
I'll take that compliment.
Yeah. But aside from Fudger's weird compliments he throws in all the time that make me blush. How did you get into riding all the bikes? Because I know from knowing Christian and you that mountain biking is so much more than what most BMXers see as Crankworks and slopestyle and tricks and the projects you guys work on. Because it seems like there's downhill. There's so much more than just the small slopestyle thing we see.
For sure, I would say slopestyle is very niche.
It's what BMXers see, though, don't you feel, in the projects?
I mean, the public sees that more than anything, too.
I think that's sort of the idea, though, is we're trying to be the cool part of mountain biking. We're not, slopestyle is not selling product. you know, like my slope bike, like Trek sells them, but they're like usually pretty limited in a lot of the parts. I mean, you know, it's not like what fuels the industry, but it's sort of like, it's a good way to get people like watching mountain biking. It's just like a project or an event. It's like, it's crazy. Like, holy crap, it's Crankworks. These dudes are doing wild stuff, jumping off massive things. So that's always been like the idea, is that it's sort of it's just like the cool, you know, it's like people don't want to watch you like
it's
XC
what I thought
ride
everybody did. And then when the first time I went mountain biking
it's
with
not
you,
like that at all.
you know, me and Christian was our first time, and we were saying like, so this is what everybody does, and you're like, our friend Greg was there with like clip pedals and his whole outfit and the like road bike helmet, and you're like,
no, it's more like that.
So that's like 95% of it, right? Is like
100%. Yeah.
And you know, the chainline bikes and Connor, like that crew, you know, they're all shredding, but they've opened my eyes to seeing like there's like trail riding and like so mountain biking is so
and that's
broad.
How I started. Like I grew up in Whistler, which is like just like mountain town. I mean, it's like a really tourist mountain bike ski mecca now, but like my high school was like 300 kids and it was slack. Like if it snowed, you didn't go to school, you went skiing. My parents were ski bums. Like that was just like what we did, is like rode bikes in the summer, skied in the winter. My brother's like 7 years older than me. He was like, on the national team for like ski racing, but he mountain biked as like cross training in the summer. And then he
older brother?
Yeah, 7 years older. So I was like, always like, yeah, like he's my hero. Like follow this dude around. Yeah. Get beat up by his friends and stuff like that, you know? But yeah, so I just like kind of chased those dudes down. And then he switched over to like racing mountain bikes, like cross country. So then that's what I got into. It was like, we weren't well off. It was like, hey, I got a race bike every like 2 years, find like a good used race bike or something, and then I'd just go around and I'd like hit the races that I could like kind of tag with him, like if there was like a close enough like BC Cup, Canada Cup, and I could go there and race as well, then that's what I'd do. But then there was like the Whistler Bike Park was kind of starting, and there was like some dirt jumps around and they were getting better and things like that. And then eventually he stopped racing, and I was like maybe like 13, 14, where I was like kind of like, this like racing thing's not as fun. Like the courses get easier and it's not like really a challenge anymore. But like for me, it was just like mountain biking was like, that's what I had. I could go out my back door, ride up the hill and ride trails, and I'd just do laps and loops. And like there was literally like 300
As
kilometers.
in like the trail riding with less jumps, more just like
exactly.
It's
just
the trees.
Trail, dude. Like, and then back then it was like there'd be like some ladder bridges and things like that, or like rock faces, but it wasn't like jumps at all. Like there wasn't like, Whistler doesn't have like dirt. It's like gnarly roots and rocks, and that was just like what we had.
That's how you'd get so good at mountain biking, I feel like, because I can kind of understand like the going out to your jumps out in Pine Valley. Like I get that, but then when we've done like little trail runs, I'm like, this is so foreign and it's so hard.
It's so different.
Like, so different.
It's just really, like what you know, right? Mm-hmm. But so there's like, I could go my back door and like
so you're
ride
just
like
doing that all the time.
Trails. Like I could literally ride to the other side of Whistler just on trails without even crossing a road. So it was like, that's what I had access to. And then when like, like there was more like dirt jumps and like the bike park was coming around, and I was able to get my hands on like a downhill bike or a dirt jump bike, then I started doing that. And that was
had to
like
be kind of the beginning of the whole like Crankworks blowing up. That
exactly.
Kind of stuff.
And it was right around that time where it was like,
what year is that?
It was like,
so
like
13, 14.
So like 2001 was like the first like joyride, like Crankworks, but it was like an on-off box and like a 4-pack of jumps, like a drop off a cliff into a 4-pack of jumps. But it was like all the pros, like Gareth Dyer, Richie Schley, like Wade Simmons, like all the like super legend mountain bike dudes. And like I'd watch them, like we just go sit at the bottom, just like how people sit at like Crankworks. But it was like obviously so small at that time. And it was like, this is so sick. Like this is insane. These dudes are crazy. Like I would never do this. But then it was like that event kind of started to evolve, and then around 2005, the Boneyard was like, it was like a slopestyle course that stayed up all year. And I was
at
like,
the mountain, like,
dude, like you literally like at any point of the day you could just like go walk up. Like you didn't even need a pass. Like they didn't monitor it at the time.
Crazy.
You just like walk up and go ride a slopestyle course, like whatever you want.
The one that they're going to be competing on at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Wow.
It was
that's
crazy.
That's probably a nice little advantage.
Well, and that was like
to get into it. Early
well, that's
on in
like
life.
that's like I'm so fortunate for that, because that's like the only way I would have ever got into it.
That's, I mean, for most people, that's you get something like that. Most, no one just comes from like, oh yeah, I had a parking lot, I got good in. Like,
totally.
Someone always had that little amazing place. There
was an opportunity, and I tried to take advantage of it. And all my friends were like riding. Then they were doing like, I was racing, but then all my friends were like downhill racing and like dirt jumping and doing like all this other stuff. And I was like cross country racing. Like I was like not that dude, but I'd like show up at the dirt jumps with my cross country bike, and I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. This is terrible.
So you said when we do interviews with people, it's always like BMX racing became like too competitive, etc. So they're out. But you said that it became too easy and boring.
Yeah, it was just like it wasn't a challenge. It wasn't a challenge anymore. It's like we rode like all the stuff that I had at home was like really gnarly. Like the trails we would ride, like people ride them now. Like Cop Killer and all these like crazy like people go ride them now. They're like near Whistler and they're like, I rode Cop Killer, and you're like,
wild name.
Yeah, you're like, sick dude. You rode it on your like
mass murder trail.
Yeah, no, exactly. These are, like the savage ones. But like, yeah, sick. Well, you rode it on your like new age downhill bike. Like we used to ride that on like cross country bikes with clips and our seat jacked up. It was like that was just like what we had and like what people were into. And I was like, so you go to like these races and they dumb them down because like kids were getting hurt or whatever, and then like,
and bikes have gotten a lot better too.
Dude,
I don't want to stray off
so much
topic
better.
too much, but when we went up to Santa Cruz, I think it was, and hung out with Alan Cook at the Santa Cruz bikes place, he showed us like, this is why people didn't ride mountain bikes 15 years ago, and he showed us what they look like, and it's like, that is what they look like. They were shit.
100%.
You know, I mean, people did, but I think BMXers were just like, yeah, I'm not gonna ride a mountain bike.
You're
Those
just
things
like,
are
this thing
dangerous
looks
looking.
awful. Like, why would I want to jump on this? Yeah,
just like a BMX bike from the 80s, though. You'd be like, how could you do anything on that? You know, so. It's good to see those old bikes to pay respect to what mountain bikers
dude, in
and
hindsight,
BMXers were doing
and like
back then.
thinking about what the athletes were doing on them at the time, you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
They look
There's
like
a lot,
road
there's
bikes.
a lot of that.
They're like fucking road bikes. What they started on, it looks insane.
Yeah.
Like, were there dudes riding BMX back then? Like when you were like a kid getting into that stuff, was there any like BMX kids around?
That's
or,
where
like,
I was
did
going to
you
go
even
next.
see
It's a
it?
good
Like,
question.
Well, yeah, like I always think of when you say Whistler, I think of Dreamline. And that was me trying to figure out what year that was, but that was like, that had to be like 2007 or 6 or something.
2006, 2007.
Not Dreamline,
it was Elevation.
Elevation, my bad. That's why that's why I couldn't find it.
So the biggest jumps at the time. I watched those in footage, and
like Foster doing the first triple whip because the jump was so big and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that was a game changer as well. It was like, again, like having the boneyard at my disposal. Like that year in 2005, I got a dirt jump bike, and then it was like I stopped racing. I was like, okay, I'm just not doing that anymore. Like I'm having so much fun doing this, and I would just like, I wasn't going to school. Like I was doing correspondence, so I'd just ride all day and then I'd do schoolwork at night. So I'd like go ride I'd literally just like hang out in the boneyard all day, or like I would ride the bike park, but I didn't have a downhill bike yet, so I'd be riding on like a hardtail, and my shit was always breaking. And then, but there wasn't like a BMX scene. Like I was skateboarding, I'd ski, snowboard, whatever, like all types of bikes, but BMX wasn't really like, we had one skate park and the dirt jumps were kind of rough, so it was just always rode better on a mountain bike.
So I've never been there. I've been to Vancouver, but I've never been to Whistler. How far is Whistler from like Vancouver? Probably?
About at that time, probably just over an hour.
Okay.
It's like quicker now because the highway's all redone.
But
But
from what Corey Walsh said too, that's an area with like pretty savage skate hate too. So like the
it
parks,
was pretty gnarly.
parks
Yeah.
aren't inviting to BMX, so it's like
No, and the dirt jumps were right beside the skate parks. You'd ride in like, and we'd always, I mean, we'd know like, we'd like, okay, don't get dirty tires in the skate park. We'll get shit, like shit on as these little kids. But yeah, there was like skate hate, but we were locals and like we'd still ride the skate park a little bit, like just float through it. But it wasn't like, I don't know. It never like caught on where like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to ride skate park a bunch.
There's no one like sick that was shredding over there.
There was a couple BMXers. So there was this dude, Luke, and he was gnarlier than the skaters. Like he was like, and he didn't really like mountain bikes.
oh, that's weird.
But he was a
yeah,
BMXer.
you
But
guys
we're
have,
like tight now.
Yeah.
BMX hate probably.
Well, you
too.
gotta have,
Yeah.
it's like it passed down the hate.
I think he just like giving Groms a hard time, but he was like the BMX dude, but he was like gnarly. Just like rip around the skate park, just yelling at people, like, classic, like you're just like owning the park loc.
And I always think of Vancouver having such a strong scene back then with Miron and Asato.
Vancouver did, dude.
Like,
for
I mean,
sure.
Mango now
Insane.
and stuff. So
yeah, but as a
But like
Grom,
you're
I
saying,
wasn't going
Whistler's-
down there.
Yeah.
And when you're young, an hour is a very far.
Yeah.
Yeah, being ignorant to that, I always think Whistler, Vancouver, same thing. You don't realize like probably like mountain kids and city kids, like a whole different.
There's a few
scene.
BMXers, but it was like small scene, like 2 or 3, and then there ended up being some like little BMX trails called the Rev Trails, which like Bruno, this dude that worked at the bike shop I was sponsored by, he dug there, and I'd like go help, and every once in a while I'd ride, but there was like always like a bit of tension and stuff, and like I was just Grom, like I didn't really know. I was like, whatever, Boneyard's cool, and then Elevation came around, and they left those jumps up.
They left
Wow.
them out.
Dude, so there was like
I had
two.
no idea.
There was like 2 summers where those jumps just were there, and like
Best
we
dirt
had the
jumps in
key
the
to
world
them,
at the time,
dude. It
and
was
then the
so
best slope
sick.
style course at the time.
It was
Did they
insane.
That's
ride
unreal.
on the
Yeah,
mountain
that's what
bike?
I was about
So good.
I was about to say. So you could ride those jumps in 2006.
Oh yeah,
That's
I'd ride them every day.
So you were good at riding bikes back then, because that is. I mean, that's what everybody talked about. It was like that last set was like
because they're
fucking
big,
stressful.
They're like steep, but like slope style size jumps.
What elevation in Dreamline in those contests did I always feel like was like teetered on the edge of like being mountain bike jumps.
Yeah.
So the mountain bikers probably like, sweet, thanks for building. Like
Yeah,
it was more
yeah.
like when I went to those last Dreamlines, I was like, you guys, this is kind of like these are mountain bike jumps. You should invite mountain bikers to this.
But
They got like a little over the top, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I never rode them on a BMX, but at the time I was like, okay, they're like similar size to what we have on the slopestyle course, but dude, do they ride so much better. Like no one had really, like every once in a while you get a decent slopestyle course, but no one had really figured it out yet. I'm like, man, we need jumps like this on the course. And it was like, it really like elevated what was going on like right
No
next
pun
to it on the
intended.
boneyard. Yeah, actually.
Interesting. So did you kind of tell them like, hey, like we should kind of like merge how they're building their jumps with our slopestyle courses?
For sure. Yeah. Like there was like a really good, like build crew around at a similar time. Tom Hay and some of these other guys from New Zealand came down. They're super good with building like dirt jumps, like farm jam and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay.
they build out spots like that. So they were kind of helping with that stuff, and they were riding those jumps too while they were building the course.
With
And
their BMX or slope bikes?
BMX and mountain bike, yeah. And so yeah, I think it started to like kind of translate over to the slopestyle course a bit too. But yeah, between those two, that's like really where I went from like full racing, like only ever having like a cross country bike, to just like I got a hardtail and then I got a downhill bike, and all I rode was like the boneyard, the down, like the bike park, and then elevation.
So you had no BMX experience the first like
Dude,
several, I mean whatever 5-10 years.
I didn't own a BMX until I was like, dude, I don't know, like 2010, maybe even
that's
later.
crazy, yeah.
Like
Wow.
Pova gave me maybe one of my first BMXs from Fly, Kevin
That's awesome.
Kalkoff.
That's
Yeah,
crazy,
senior
yeah.
skills on a BMX bike. I always thought you were BMX.
Yeah, I would always kind of. Well, I always thought at least maybe you like dabbled, you know, like 'cause
I would have
mean,
loved to,
because you
I
had
just-
that
the
you
bike
know,
god.
that
Yeah.
what the fuck, blanking on the name, the night edit.
Oh,
Oh, the
yeah, so we
Barcelona
the
one?
Barcelona thing.
Was it
Oh, yeah.
Barcelona?
Yeah, yeah.
So like I
Street
mean,
Sweepers.
Street Sweepers.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that was like
Yeah, you made a full on BMX edit.
yeah,
Kind
you
of,
made
and it
yeah.
was just like, dude, it was just like such an afterthought. Like it was just like me and Ripper being like, we're bored at night. Like we were doing mountain bike stuff. Like I was actually shooting like stuff with like Anthill, like we're doing like their mountain bike film. But we would just go out at night for like a couple hours and like, let's see if we can find a cool spot. And we'd run into something like, a lot of those spots I didn't even realize were like obviously
Spots.
they're all
You don't know the
spots.
history behind
But
it,
I'm like,
right?
I've never seen a clip here. And then like the more I like watch BMX, then I start to be like, oh, that's that spot. Like
Yeah.
someone had actually got a clip on that, sick. And then it was cool. Like super random though. Like
No,
we went
no.
out for like 5 nights and spent a couple hours getting random clips.
That's cool. That's awesome.
But it was like super fun. Like for me, like getting on a BMX, it's just like opens my world up. Like where I'm just like, this is all new to me. It's like exciting again.
Yeah, you're not like, oh,
feel
I
like that
already
edit-
filmed this in another video or something. Like everything you're doing is all new. It's all refreshing. You're in the
Exactly.
streets,
you know what I
like-
realized? You didn't intro Christian.
Yeah, Christian's here.
I was gonna say, I watched the Corey one yesterday, and I'm like, I'm probably right behind him as far as appearances go, so we don't need anything.
Christian Regal is here.
Yeah.
Perfect dude to sit in on this because I grew up with Christian.
Yeah.
We grew up filming and riding together. We did this whole experience together. Now you've moved over into the mountain bike world as well as staying in the BMX world. Now you guys are friends and we've all met each other. So
Yeah.
perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, you
Friend to sit in on this.
introed Brandon to Dennis, right? Or Dennis to Brandon, whichever way.
No,
them
I
together.
think we all
We-
probably
we
mutually like
cross-paths.
talked.
Well, we crossed
like-
paths a few times. Nike 6.0.
Yeah.
Super, like, I mean, super brief, but
You went to the migration thing, right? When we
yeah.
were kids. Yeah.
The
We've known
Oregon
each other
one.
since
You
we
were doing like
really
Dew
young.
Tour, so you were like mega busy, I think, at the one that
Yeah.
that I
one-
was
yeah.
hung out at. But yeah, like there's a couple times.
And then bumped back into each other at Poway.
exactly
Yeah.
GKC Fast briefly maybe.
God, are they still
GKC.
doing that?
Nah, Trevor's
That
actually doing
property's
MMA
sold.
and he would be a sick guest. as
That would
well.
be an insane.
Yeah,
guest.
Trevor's amazing.
We should I mean,
Need a
this
whole
is
day
totally
for that.
aside, but I've been meaning to start another channel for Unclicked, so maybe we should do not to take it off of there, but like if we're branching out too much, it'd be
going too
be
left
good.
field.
I mean, you know, BMX kids are BMX kids, you know.
Yeah,
But,
BMX kids.
but
should
I've been
be
meaning to even
open their eyes
aside
to everything.
Yeah, even aside from like it not being like strictly BMX, just like for just logistic purposes. But But yeah,
you're the guy with the brains on
thinking out loud on the podcast. Sorry.
So where are we going with this? We're talking about. Oh yeah. So like, when you guys were doing this, this isn't where we're going with it, but I had a thought. Like, so the slopes things starting to come to life, but BMX at this time in like 2006 era is like Do Tour, like Luke Parslow, Alan Cook, like these superstars, like
crazy.
So you guys, that was probably pretty crazy because it's almost like reverse now in the sense of like the big contests. Like Do Tour kind of, to me, seems like it's transferred over to Crankworks. Like that's what we watch. Like, wow, this is so cool. As in like big dirt contest.
And I think for us, it was like never like that at all. Like we were looking at BMX and being like, these dudes are insane. Like this is a whole nother level.
And that's how we're looking at. I watch Crankworks. Like I imagine that's how you guys watched Do Tour back then. You know, because
100%.
Like,
yeah.
BMX was on this level of tricks wise, like dirt jumping. It still is with the 4-pack events and everything. But the Crankworks thing is like you guys took what people were doing in Do Tour, and now you do it on your bikes on these amazing, beautiful courses all over the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy where it started and where it has come to. But like for me and like I know a lot of the other athletes, it's like we didn't have like a setup. I mean, you could always ride a BMX anywhere, but it wasn't like there was a direction to go like with a BMX. Like it was just like I lived in the mountains, so we ride mountain bikes. Everyone around me rode mountain bikes, so it was like that was just
product
honestly.
Of your environment.
If I lived in Vancouver, I would have been on BMX 100% or like skateboarded if I didn't have crap ankles. I'd just be like, that's what I did. But because I was in Whistler, it was like we don't really have the other stuff, so I'm gonna ride mountain bikes, and that's what everyone's doing. It's all my friends do. And then it just like elevated from there. Like the sport was so confused at the time. Like 2005, it was like you'd have dudes on hardtails and you'd have dudes on like trail bikes. You'd have guys on full on downhill bikes.
What,
but
riding Crankworks? Or
riding the same course.
Yeah.
And it was, but like everyone's doing a little bit different, and the features are kind of crazy. Like there's like elevated teeter totters, but then there's like sick 4-pack of dirt jumps and curved wall rides, and like it was like weird, man. Like it was a really cool time because you're like. Everyone got to kind of like display, like I want to like almost equate it to like Metro Jam, but like kind of looser. Like there was a bit of everything for everyone that had like a skill. Like somewhere on the course they're gonna shine.
Yeah.
But then eventually the sport it started to like develop and
condense into the people who were like
there were certain people that kind of like stuck with it or started to like create a trend. Like this is the path of the slopestyle events, and like these are what the features are going to look like and the dimensions, and then it elevated like or evolved very fast.
Yeah, once there was like the same kind of feature getting put on each course, and people could like put that in their compounds and start practicing.
And that was the other thing. And then people started getting backyards, and it was like I only rode slopestyle when I was at the slopestyle event, so we would like practice so much.
Oh yeah.
And then you just be beat, and then it'd be like finals. But you're like, I learned like 3 tricks during practice. I'm stoked.
That's how Do Tour was for me.
Then you go home. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Practice. Yeah, I get to ride these finally, and then go home and like I don't have dirt jumps.
Yeah, you like go to some small dirt jump, and you're like trying to learn your next big trick. But you're like, I don't even have enough air time, like whatever it is, right? Or like you're trying to build some sketchy drop in the middle of nowhere, and So when I got the yard, it was like. That was like when it like really like escalated for me. I was like,
so did you get a house on your own in Vancouver, and that's when you started building stuff, or did you just? Is it like did you start building in your parents' house, or like when did that change?
Yeah, like we had some like little local spots. Like I would dig up behind my dad's house, but so Whistler didn't have like a lot of great. It was just like so much rock. Like digging anything big. Like we made some dirt jumps, but you could only stack them so much because there's only so much dirt. Like you'd be digging graves everywhere just to like make like a couple jumps.
How does the mountain have such sick jumps in? Is it just different?
I mean,
they get
excavators and just they mine and
budget.
I mean, it's a budget,
but
it is like Whistler's kind of like it's like shalier up there. Like it's kind of gnarly. Like like even like the slopestyle course was like shale forever. Like dude, I've like got scars all over my body. I'm just torn up from the boneyard.
Shale's like the
just
sharp
like
rock.
just sharp rock. Like but then they started. Well, what happened is they stored all the elevation dirt. And they were using that for the slopestyle, like capping the slopestyle courses for
it's amazing that like the elevation course had such a crazy
huge
impact on mountain biking.
I've always thought that because they're like the mountain biking was in the confused or slope was in a confused stage, and that's when Do Tour was just like so promising, and like all these guys had like something to work for, and then you could kind of see like mountain biking. It was just like not anyone took from anyone, but people were feeding off of each other.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see it's not direct.
We were looking at that like that is so sick, and we're just like we're doing our thing, but that we weren't like we need to do that, like that's gonna be us. It was just like man, that's so cool. Like looking at it like just jaw drop.
I got a dumb question. Is Whistler like the home of slopestyle events, or are there parallels somewhere else in the country world or whatever, or is it really just a Whistler invention?
Whistler kind of really started it and took it to the next level.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
like 2001. Like,
it's crazy
when it pretty much started.
Baby. Like the whole
it is.
slope thing is
Yeah.
like a baby.
Even when I was
it's so amazing.
I looked you up a little bit, like trying to figure out a couple of questions, so I didn't have to rely on Dennis the entire time. And it lists you as like a freestyle mountain biker. Yeah. You know, and
what
it's like I think
just
Red Bull.
The websites.
Red Bull, I think.
Yeah, I think I never tried to pigeonhole myself as a slope.
Yeah.
Like, and I never like really looked at myself as a slopestyle athlete because I was like, I came from racing, but then I was like doing a lot of like free riding, like riding big bikes and stuff. But then slopestyle was cool because it's just something I could. It's like going to a skate park. You just go and hang out there all day and ride and try and learn things. And I would want to take that in another directions. Like I'm like, hey, maybe I'll do it on my big bike in this other location, but slopestyle contest gave me the opportunity to make it a career. Not that I was like, oh, this is going to be my career. I stopped racing. I'm going to go do this. I was just like, okay, like racing wasn't doing it for me. And then I was going to the dirt jumps. I wasn't going to school. And like literally like on school days, like I'm riding the dirt jumps and I've got in the first like 2 weeks that school was like starting again that year, I got like a Trek sponsorship, Nike 6.0 sponsorship. And then this like saddle company sponsored me.
And how old are you at that point?
It was at 14.
14, wow.
And then it was like 2-3 months later, I was like, when I was in California for an event, and then I went to Europe, like for like a full on bike park trip for like 6 weeks with like, I'm 14 by myself. And I'm just like meeting like pros, like dudes that I'm like idolized. And then it just like was like ended at an event and they let me in. I qualified. I got my like first like, check $500. I'm like, yeah, sick. Like,
yeah, I'm rich.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, like this is great. Like, dude, things just like snowballed so fast. So like by the time I was like 15, I had like a bunch of legit sponsors and money to travel and like kind of live on my own almost. So then it was like,
wow,
I was
1 year
coming to California's in the winter, like just living with my buddies, riding bikes. And then they'd come up to Whistler in the summers and I wouldn't even go home. Like they'd rent a place and I just live there, like sleep on a windowsill, sleep in the like closet. Like it didn't matter. It was just like, we were just like bikes, like wake up, watch a bike movie, go ride, like come back for lunch, like go ride more. Like it was nonstop.
That's so rad. And so that time is that kind of what put you in the more like slope category? Is that's what you're getting paid for?
Yeah,
and getting sent around the world?
I was like getting these opportunities riding events. Sorry, it's kind of
that's
there.
Fine.
But yeah, I was like,
great.
there was a lot of these events going on. Like there's these big European events like Cash Guy and then the Crankworks started to spread out into other places. And so there was a lot of events for slopestyle, but not free ride. So there was like big mountain events was like Rampage. And then there was this Chattel event for a while. So there was like a few, but it was like they were almost
Big Mountain is like
considered like big mountain slopestyle events at the time because they were mixed in like when the freeride world tour started happening, it was like all slopestyle events and then there'd be like 2 big mountain events like jammed in there between a bunch of events, and that was like,
and they're part of the tour.
Part of the tour, and it was just like mountain biking. Like it wasn't, they were not like specific really, but like you would show up to this one with a slope bike and then you'd show up the next week to this other event with a downhill bike.
So you had to be really well rounded back then.
Yeah, and it was hard too because you would be like riding like.
So more dumb questions. So one is like racing.
No.
Okay.
Like
right.
it's like
slopestyle is like big
Dumb
jumps.
Yeah, I'm not trying to understand because not everybody else.
They're different
totally.
bikes, different type of riding.
Yeah, like the
it's
the
almost like
platforms and all that
slopestyle,
stuff, but then the Rampage stuff is like straight up mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like whereas like Rampage, like we're still like there's a course, we're doing tricks,
Yeah.
but it's so gnarly that you can't ride a slope bike on it. So we've got a big downhill bike instead. So there'd be like events like that where you'd be like on like in a parking lot somewhere in like some big European, even like Milan or like London or something, riding like dirt jumps in a parking lot basically, and then you're in like the Alps riding like the gnarliest shit ever on like a downhill bike, and it was like we had to go weekend to weekend on different bikes.
That's crazy.
So
it's crazy
like
to switch stuff, switch like that. Like I feel like that is such a
That's why it's a super interesting topic that like there's like well-rounded BMXers, but we would ride the same bike the whole time.
Yeah, of
but
course.
For
yeah.
him, like being well-rounded as a mountain biker is like you could have like 4 different bikes.
You know, like
right?
James Foster rides a different bike for Mega Ramp than he does for
He's
dirt,
very particular. He also brings around
particular.
a digital tire gauge to know exactly how much his PSI is.
James is the most particular human on the planet. He'd be a good. He'd actually be a good guest.
He would be great.
He's fucking. He's intense. I love him, but he's intense. I had Adam Watkins, who reach out to a couple of people for questions, and he said Cam Zink was super curious about who were your influences as a young rider. So
Cam Zink,
definitely
one of them.
Yeah.
So I think Cam Zink, he's up there, and again
I can hear Dennis drinking right now. It's
not to go off topic, but like Cam Zink is like idol, and then there was like a while there where like. And I mean, I never like the competition thing's funny because like people like make rivalries,
Yeah.
But like we were homies.
Wait, who is it? You and Cam?
Yeah, me and Cam, and like I'm super young. Like I'm always looking up to Cam, but we'd be like on course, and like this is like jank slopestyle days, and we'd be like looking at stuff like, are you gonna spin it? Like if you spin it, I'm gonna spin it, kind of thing. Because it was like
just pushing.
We were like pushing each other, but people like kind of saw it as like this rivalry. But me and Cam were just like, I think me and Cam were just doing our thing.
Yeah.
But he was like my competition for like a number of years, like, and obviously even at Rampage still, he is still like very much a dude to look after or look out for, and then we've been really close friends. But then Kyle Strait, Cam McCall, like Darren Bearcloth, all these dudes that have like played a major role in the sport, but all in really different ways. Like I think Cam McCall was one dude that. He was like very like talented on all bikes, but he took slopestyle and like kind of almost made slopestyle what it is today. Like he was like, okay, we're taking these like 4 or 5 inch travel bikes and we're going to set them up like this and we're going to ride features like that and do these tricks. And he was like very much like in line with where like the progression went. And then you had people like Darren Bearcloth who would kind of show up on different bikes, but either way, he'd just make it work. And he was like gnarly and he'd send the biggest stuff and he had the bike skills. Kyle Strait, who was like more on like, he was so skilled on a bike, but also had really good style. And then he kind of brought that aspect in. So I kind of like looked at all those dudes for inspiration. I'd say they're probably the main like 4. And then Cam was just gnarly and could ride everything. And he had like
Cam
a race.
He announces them now?
Cam McCall announces them now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Cam Zink,
that's cool to know that, like, because I figured he was a badass.
Yeah,
but he was
him
like
and his
before.
brother announce all the crankwork stuff now. It's just super
So he was
dope.
like a grandfather, or not grandfather, but like a founder of like making crankwork sick.
Like literally probably like my biggest inspiration.
Sick.
And like he was on my team. Like he was I was a Trek athlete with him and just him. Like we were the only Trek athletes. And then like Andrew Chandra, but he was like our team manager and he was like 10 years older than us. So it was like, we was pretty much just like me and Cam on the team, and then Chandro told us what to do. But yeah, like absolute legend, like helped build the sport up huge.
That's awesome.
It's funny because from talking from Adam, it was like he made it sound like Cam Zink had no idea that he just felt like you were. It was probably because you're like 14 and you're just
at
like,
that time. Yeah, I was.
You like
was
don't
no
want to
one.
talk to anybody like that type of like
super shy.
like I'm not going to talk to Cam Zink right now. So.
Yeah, it was probably not till I was like in my early 20s where, I mean, yeah, it was probably like 19, 20 when me and Cam were like sort of like competing now. Like we were like head to head at a lot of events.
And was that, and you were winning all of those first kind of Red Bull events and stuff like that, right? Like, or I mean, are they Red Bull events or the
really,
what is Crankwork
like,
stuff? Aren't you like the champion like 4 years in a row or something?
Yeah, I have quite a few, but
just like Dennis. I'm just joking.
Yeah, like there was like
had to hit him.
Like 1 year, like 2010, like broke my collarbone. Cam Zink won. The next year I won, and then it was like kind of went back and forth on things.
But it makes good television, or it makes a good storyline when you guys if you guys didn't like each other, you guys are rivals.
Well, I think that was it. But like we were like close, and like it was funny because we would talk about our runs before we do it. Whereas like slopestyle is not like that anymore. Like people like keep that stuff hush. Like it's funny because people actually practice the tricks now on slopestyle practice. Like whereas like me and Zink wouldn't even do the tricks. Like we would, because we know if one of us did it, the other dude was just gonna do it too. So we like hold our cards back, like we just like straight air the setup. But like we know we're gonna like flip whip it or like spin this thing or like
when they call your name, it's time to do it.
Yeah. So
I always think that's cool though, because even in BMX contests, like once someone does a line and people are like, oh shit, like look at that line, then it like opens stuff up for everybody. I think it's cool the dudes that can just cruise the course, keep it mellow, and then once it's go time, like then you see what they're doing. Like that was always the most exciting.
Yeah, but I think it goes towards like as the years goes on and everybody gets so good, it's like you got to practice your run over and over. You know,
the
but
level of riding, you can't just like straight air jumps anymore. Like,
Or
that
and
is
he's
something.
probably, I mean, at that point he's probably, I can do a flip whip for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
So
And is this
I'm gonna
bike
show.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. People started getting dialed. People
Yeah.
started getting setups.
Yeah.
Like they actually had stuff to ride. At this point, I was still like maybe just getting like my own setup to practice. Like if not, I'd be at like a local dirt jump park, and it was like, it's kind of useless.
Yeah.
You know.
So along this whole path, are you paying attention to BMX stuff at all, or is it
100%.
Okay.
Like I'm
Was
like
there
a
any BMX influences, like early ones, or was it?
always like I was a fan of like all sports. So like I would say I had a lot of influence from like ski, skate, and BMX.
Oh, wow.
Like
That's
through
cool,
my whole life. Like whenever I get my hands on it, whether it's like a magazine, websites, anything, you know, like even just watching people at the skate parks and stuff like that. I was like, it's like that's cool. Like I wonder if I could integrate that into like something that I'm doing or like my skill set. And yeah,
I mean, and Whistler has to be a good like snowboarding and skiing town, right?
Yeah,
So
huge.
I'm sure
yeah.
you seem like you're a guy that's pretty much good at everything, so you're probably good at that too.
Some things. Yeah. I skied a lot. And like my best friends were like ended up being like some of the best big mountain skiers in
Wow.
the world. You're
Yeah.
just like it was crazy.
Products of their environment.
that seems like you
Products
could
of
look
their
at skiing
environment.
and snowboarding really well for like the Rampage events. Like that relates so well to that. And
Totally.
then more slope is more
That's
like.
I mean, obviously
slopestyle
there's
snowboarding.
obviously
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
similarities within BMX, of course, you know, obstacle wise. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that you guys do, I mean, it parallels snowboarding in
Yeah.
so many different ways. Where
Dude,
it's
there's some
like
insane
the gap to wall stuff
like
and all that.
skier and snowboarder crossovers where like I've ridden laps with skiers and I'm like, dude, like this dude doesn't pick
They're
lines
so
like my
good.
mountain bike friends. Like they look at the mountain differently. It's like
Yeah.
pretty refreshing to see like the eyes that people have from like skiing and snowboarding into mountain biking because they are like very similar in certain aspects.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think snowboarding gets the credit that it deserves at points. You know, even
at
from
all.
like, I mean, Jeff Z and I always talked about from the photography standpoint that like snowboard photography was the upper echelon of
videos,
like action
too.
sports stuff.
They're like the
yeah,
most
video
highly
stuff,
produced
yeah.
videos
And-
forever. Like helicopters, like everything. All the most top-notch filming stuff came from, I feel like, the snow sports. Like,
Yeah.
And a lot of that, like in mountain biking, like I think like our production level is really high. Like there's a lot that goes into it, and that all stemmed from snowboarding because all those snowboard filmers just came over and did mountain bike productions in the summertime.
That's
Yeah,
and that's-
really interesting.
Because
Yeah.
because it's the same. They're in the same town and they have a season, you know. And
Yeah.
unless you're on a crazy
Yeah.
level where you
Yeah.
actually go to a
They're
far
all-
off Alps type situation, you're in Whistler.
a lot of the big.
BMXers were going the wrong way. We're watching like Baker videos. Like, yeah, get a
Yeah.
VX.
I don't know if it's the
Just
wrong
like-
way, but it's different.
Blow
Right?
smoke in front
As
of
in
the
like
lens.
high-end production. It's
Totally.
the
Yeah,
wrong way, you know.
totally,
Like
yeah.
it's really cool and it looks sweet, but it's like
Christian went from a VX to a red.
he did.
You
He's
can
done
do
well.
it, but
One
some
step.
people, some,
One step.
some people like to hold on to their core values till their grave.
I'm gonna
but-
film with a potato for the rest of my
Yeah,
life.
I've always appreciated mountain biking and the production, and even all the way down to the riders. Like, there's so many mountain bike riders that are conscious of light and like all sides of the production and
Yeah.
filming and everything. We're like BMXers, like, I mean, we're not. You don't need to care. Like, we go out and film all day.
Yeah, I
we
wish
don't
I
care
didn't have to
about
worry about
light.
it all the time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's like to me, it's cool when a mountain biker's like, oh yeah, we're gonna shoot in the morning, we're gonna shoot in the evening, we're gonna chill during the day because they like the light to be good too. Like
Yeah.
BMXers are like, dude, I'm feeling it. Let's get it. And then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how it is.
I always
But-
said that with photo stuff. Is like I'm not really like a photographer in the sense that I like create a scene. I'm like
Yeah.
given like I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, make
right
do
here,
with the situation.
and
Make it
shoot
work.
the best photo that you can.
Yeah.
You know. So
And with BMX, in particular street riding, it's like there's no security. I'm feeling really
100%.
good. Dude, let's pull over and get this, you know?
And that's one thing when I started riding BMX, like even when we did we did that street sweepers thing. I was like, well, Bart, this is cool. Like riding street sweet, whatever. Like thought it was all like that everywhere. And then it was like, oh, let's like, we're in California. Let's go like get some random like BMX clips. And it was like getting kicked out of everywhere
Yeah.
and just like dealing
Driving
with so
for
much
an
stuff. I'm
hour.
like,
That's
Yeah.
why people fly
Dude,
to Barcelona
this
to
is
finish video parts. And
insane.
just, you know.
I'd like, yeah, I don't envy you guys.
yeah, imagine if you're riding mountain bikes and somebody's like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Oh man, I would
Like,
lose my mind.
They have there's a fair share of elements in mountain biking that I could equivalent I think to like the shit you deal with in the streets, but it's not a security guard, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
But so
I'm
many
sure,
weird
yeah.
things in mountain biking where I'm like, man, like sometimes I'm like I miss the streets, you know, just because it's like
Yeah.
it's a different scenario. But
I mean, it goes back to snowboarding stuff. We always talked about like the fucking effort that they put into this photo
Wake up at
is insane.
5 in the morning,
Yeah.
pack the sleds, get
yeah.
out to the
They didn't
spot,
have
get
a
out there.
helicopter. They
Oh,
climbed a
it's
fucking
overcast.
mountain.
Let's go home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Brutal.
It's crazy.
And that kind of moves to, we were talking about it before the podcast, but most BMXers, besides a few niche ones like that get to do the projects, you know, it's like BMX, you work on these parts all year round. It's like you guys, it's hard in its own way where you have this controlled setting, you have a vision, and you make the course and get dialed at the tricks. Is that kind of how the projects works?
Kind of, yeah. Like, I mean, there's always like, I feel like there's always been like a bar set with a lot of like mountain bike productions that this is just like continuity and light and all this stuff. Like they play a factor in it. And if you don't do those things, that maybe, I mean, nowadays people are just kind of like, it's getting a bit looser, and it's cooler to just to have like a really weird like mixed tape of things, or just like shot kind of dad cam or whatever. But production level was always like a big thing in mountain biking. So there was like this structure of like, you go, you build it, because you have to, I mean, we got to build everything anyway. So if you got a zone, you're just going to build everything in the zone. And then you just kind of like continuity, you wear the same thing, you try and shoot it on the same light. And that's just like always sort of been the structure. Like, not that people don't mix it up, but yeah, that's kind of the main deal. Whereas like, I mean, BMX, like you just go get a clip, wear different stuff, go to a different spot, go to a different city, like whatever you got to do.
Five different colored bikes in a video.
Doesn't
part,
matter.
Like,
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It
But
makes
at
it
the
cool.
same
It makes
time-
it cooler in a sense.
Exactly,
Because
for
it's
sure.
like, damn, he fucking held on.
I
to some
wish-
shit and
I wish that was like more of our culture, but I think a lot of it is to do with the builds. Like, if you're all in the same spot and then all of a sudden you're wearing different kits, but the whole build's the same and you're in the same forest, it's like kind of looks weird. So you just you end up just
I always thought it
eyes.
looked really cool. I never really even thought that the same clothes thing, you know, but it looks really like nice. Just it looks like you just bang
So
it
it's
out, you know, even though
not
it's,
filmed in one day.
But when you're going, yeah,
It's
exactly.
only
That
one-
line
it's
wasn't
on-
all together.
It's
in
only
one thing.
100 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, how long could it take you?
But when you're in like another continent and you did this massive build and you get hurt day 2 and you've got to, you're like, oh, this
Wait, was
sucks.
that you on? That was your like breakout video, huh? With the single line thing. Was that?
We did some like other stuff before that had some
I think
traction.
that was the breakout video for people that hadn't
didn't
seen
know
us
anything
riding
There was-
before.
Yeah,
You
like,
know,
I think that was
BMXers
the
and
first
stuff.
time I saw.
That's the first one I
was
saw.
like, that was fucking sick.
I think people
Like,
knew he won the contest, but that was when like your fans started realizing like, oh, you're not. I didn't, because until then I thought you just rode, or for the most part, I feel like I thought you just rode slopestyle, and then I was like, oh shit, he rides all the bikes.
Yeah, I guess I meant in a viral, like more viral.
You're talking about the
I
one where he
guess.
switch bikes the whole way down the mountain.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
didn't. I
it was
honestly didn't
definitely
even
up
know
there.
that was
Like,
him until
we
I
had,
think
like-
he just- or-
We had like one of those raw 100 videos,
Yeah.
and it ended up like getting like reposted again, and it went like crazy.
That was the one that was the first video where I saw Ride post it, and that was the first time I ever saw like BMX riders that I knew.
Yeah,
like,
that was
like
wild.
Corey
'Cause, I mean, it was
Bowen
BMX.
and Doyle
Yeah, it
and
was
other people are
BMX.
like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like check this out, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like people are, because I was like watching mountain bike stuff back then, but I didn't know anything about it. But I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like
I probably
BMXers are
posted
like.
it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was. I was like, if it was you, it's surprising me. But no, I thought it was
There
cool
it
that like
is.
Ride BMX like posted that, and like that was to me the first thing that I saw that like put that in front of BMXers that maybe didn't see it before.
real recognize real. Like I if it's cool, I like it. You know, like
No, for
like
sure.
if it, something like that or all the raw 100s, I've watched all of them, of course. You
That's
know,
why I think
like
they're
but,
they're like the BMX mountain bike thing. When I was younger and first started going to trails, it was like a little. They like beefed each other because the mountain bikers wanted it this way, the BMXers wanted it this way. You know,
Yeah,
and
they
there
would
was like
mellow out the
disagreements
stuff,
on
and we
things.
wanted it steep, and
Yeah.
BMX kids probably didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They probably didn't know what they were doing, but yeah, it was just dumb drama. I feel
Yeah.
like it's like you hear the older guys say stuff, so you feel like you got to say stuff.
Yeah.
Same thing as kids at the skate park, like the little kid that's yelling at you saying no bikes. He's just doing it because he heard the older
Yeah,
guys say it. He doesn't
exactly.
even know the difference. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, but that is really good when those videos start being like, look at how sick this is, and you know, vice versa, to be like, we're all doing the same thing and trying to like create cool content and kill it at our sport the most.
Totally.
There's like no.
We didn't really have a lot of like core BMX spots where I grew up. So, or like, I mean, there was in Vancouver, there was a few
Yeah.
spots, but it was like not stuff that we were ever riding. So it would never like even crossed my mind until I was like in California more. And it was like, we had post office, but they were like mountain bike jump. Like
Yeah,
they were
those were
dirt
mountain
jumps,
bike,
but they were
yeah.
mountain bikers ran them.
And those rode really good on a BMX too.
super good. Yeah, yeah. I rode them on a BMX a little bit. They're really fun.
That's why I think usually it can, even like what's a dude's name in Santa Cruz who has like mountain bike slash
Cobb.
Those are awesome.
Cobb's jumps
like
now.
they're like
Yeah,
BMX
dude.
and mountain bike style.
100%.
So
cool.
is
You can
that
mix it
Santa
so
Cruz
easy.
is where Nyquist lived for a little while?
He was there, yeah.
And
He
then
was,
Greg,
like, just
the guy
down the
Greg,
hill a little
Greg
bit.
had the backyard set
Greg,
up.
the deer camp, and that's when
Greg
like
was.
Nyquist. Well, Nyquist was like riding with us a little bit. He would come over the hill and ride with us, and then like deer camp started, which is like Greg's backyard spot.
Okay.
And then Nyquist like started showing up more, and he would just ride his BMX, and we'd have sessions. But then he started hopping on mountain bikes just to like we were just joking
Keep
around.
himself
Like I would take
entertained,
his BMX, and he'd take my mountain bike, and we just like play around, and we just like have a game of like bike or something, you know, like getting sketchy on each other's bikes.
Let's talk about the differences between the bikes. If you jump on a BMX bike, what does it feel like? Like
It's just less stable.
less stable.
So it's like, and this was always something in mountain biking that it was never the size of the bike that bothered me or like how the bike felt. It was like, how fast am I going? Like there would be certain slopestyle courses where I'd be like, I don't want a hardtail because like the faster I go, the less like planted I feel. So I'd like maybe move up to a slope bike just because like the features are bigger. You're going at them a lot faster. And then same with like big mountain events. It's like, I need a bigger bike because we're like moving faster. We're going bigger. BMX was always like, when I got on it, it just like, I don't feel super comfortable on a BMX. So like when I start riding like mountain bike size stuff, I just feel like I'm like not super planted. I'm like a little bit sketchy everywhere. Like, yeah, just not like gripped as much.
Are there certain tricks that are easier on a BMX bike, or tricks in, I guess maybe
Dude,
in
for
general?
sure. I learned so many tricks on a like sevens. Like I was doing sevens for years on a BMX before I could even get them around on a mountain bike.
Okay.
Crazy.
That's
Like
crazy.
just stuff like that. Like I could do them like good on a BMX, and
Yeah,
I
it's
couldn't
like
even
there's-
get them around on a mountain bike.
There's
Crazy.
different tools for different things. That's
I
what
would
I'm
use
saying about those.
I would use BMX all the time to learn tricks.
That's cool.
And I wasn't like, this is like, I just got a BMX. I bought like an Aiken Complete, and it's
That was
like,
like your secret weapon then, because I feel like the other dudes probably weren't
but
doing
at the
that.
time, like I said, I didn't have stuff to practice on. So it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well, if I got a smaller bike and I rode smaller things, I could
Did you
learn
say-
these tricks.
Did you say Fit Aiken?
It was a Fit Aiken Complete, and I broke every single part on it.
Oh shit!
But it was like so sick.
That's
I love
old
that bike.
Justin bikes, though.
Justin the Fit TM was like asking me if he wants to ride for Fit. Like, it's funny. Sorry, Justin.
I mean, granted, I was probably
Yeah, you-
throwing the bike a
oh,
lot
sure,
and things
yeah,
like that. Yeah, but no, it helped me so much when I started doing that. I learned so many tricks, but it took me a long time to translate them to mountain bike. And then when I got really stoked on BMX for a few years, and like when I had more time to do it, like I started riding my slopestyle course on a BMX. Like I could do pretty much all the same tricks on my BMX as I was doing on my mountain bike on like slopestyle features,
Crazy.
like riding like whale tails and
Like, how big are the jumps on like a?
like they're
Yeah.
pretty big.
I went to his
I
house
honestly
and
don't
his
know,
yard
so
is
it's a-
gnarly. Like
I mean,
you see it
40
on
feet.
video.
Are we talking? What are we talking about? I
No,
honestly
like
don't know.
they're like proper tall lips, steep, but they're like
Okay.
maybe 20, 25 foot gaps. But then there's like whale tails, and there's
But they're like 10
step
foot
downs
lips,
that are like
right?
15
Yeah.
foot drops, and
Okay.
you're moving fast. Like
All
it's just they're just like the speed of everything is like much higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because did you guys ever have like? I remember talking to someone. I can't remember who it was. Might have been that dude Ace out in Vancouver. But he was telling me about Lonnie Paxton's jumps, and like when
Oh,
those
yeah.
first came out, they're like, dude, like dudes were like, I'm sure mountain bike guys were like frothing about that. Like, were there big mountain bike dirt jumps before slopestyle came around, or was slopestyle the thing that made people start building bigger jumps and stuff?
There
Like,
was big jumps, but they were like this, and then
Yeah.
it's like over like they're almost like more like this, and then over the years everything just started to go like that.
you up
You
in the
know?
air.
Yeah, like. It's not even about like how far you're going so much anymore. Like obviously we have fest stuff and the jumps are huge, but like it's like we want the airtime. You know, it's like we figured out how to build jumps. But like Lonnie Paxton's was insane. Like that step up.
So are
Remember,
are
like-
mountain bike jumps not raked out anymore? Because that's what I always think
They're
of.
just
I always
basically
think
like
of
scaled like.
Or I always
Say-
think
really
of them having
depends on
kind of
the bike.
almost like a little where a BMX jump has the kind of the sharp radius, and then a mountain bike jump kind of has it's just kind of.
I find they're pretty like consistent, or there'll be like a really progressive radius where like the bottoms are quite mellow because you don't want to like G out at the bottom, and then it kind of like starts to get into like a more consistent.
Okay.
It's like
I
a
think
little
it's almost
steeper.
just like a bigger scale because like I'm saying that last Dreamline we rode, it was in like New Mexico and they built it so big. It was like
Yeah,
it was
they're
a mount, it
massive.
was a
Yeah,
slope
they were
course.
like
for sure.
30
And
foot
that's like when
jumps.
you realize I was just like, dude, like I liked it. It was really fun, but it got past like I like Posh and Caddy, like trail that fits a BMX bike, even though people say they're big, but it's like it rides really perfect, those kind of trails. And it's like you built this so big that like it felt like we just had the wrong tool for the job. How you're saying like a BMX bike is fun for this,
Yeah.
and you can just, it doesn't feel as stable. It like got to a point where I'm like,
You're
dude,
just
what are we
pinned at the
doing?
jumps.
Like,
It just feels gnarly.
yeah, you built this course for the wrong people.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that because personally, I would never hit that stuff on a BMX. But like on a mountain bike, it'd be like, yeah, it's game on.
It would have been a
This is
Crankworks
awesome.
course
Yeah.
if you added a couple
But then
features.
my buddy's got like the backwoods jumps, and like those are like mountain bike jumps. They're big, steep dirt jumps, and they're big.
They're the
But
biggest
then I
jumps
look
I've
at-
ever seen in my life.
Where are
Like,
these ones?
Like
Right by his
Sunshine
house.
Coast. They're like
Oh,
at
up in
Coast Gravity
Vancouver?
Park. Yeah, it's probably like an hour away from Vancouver.
Uh-huh.
But they're like proper big jumps. But like there's dudes that ride mountain bike and BMX, or even just BMXers. I'm like, if you put like Chris Fox here, or like Remy Morton on his BMX, he's like a mountain biker, but he shreds a BMX too. Like I'm like, they would be comfy on these jumps. Like
Has
they
anyone
could
hit
do
them
it.
yet on a BMX?
No one's done it yet.
Dude,
So they're like BMX
they're-
jumps
but
up,
they're-
like the style.
Dude,
of
they're
it.
like
they have
20,
they're BMX
20
style
feet
jumps.
tall. Like they're
But they're
fucking
big.
huge, and you're going like, you got to be going at least like what, 40 or 45 or
Yeah,
something.
you're
like,
going
dude,
pretty
they're
fast at them.
I'm
they're
sure it feels way
really,
better on a mountain bike.
really
though.
gnarly.
Yeah, probably. But like they're comfy on a mountain bike, but like you could totally ride them on a BMX too. Like they're set up well, like they ride well. I don't see why like dudes that feel comfortable on a BMX wouldn't have a problem riding them.
Yeah.
It would just be adjusting to like, whoa, I'm in the air for
Yeah.
longer
Yeah,
than
you're
I've
just
ever been
floating.
in my life.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
and I'm going faster than ever. But I know you would hit them. Like you would go there, you'd probably be like, holy fuck, these are big, and then you'd follow him through.
You'd
and
do
you'd
like
probably be
one line through, and you'd be like, "This is so fun." Like,
Yeah.
You'd love it. Yeah,
but
Yeah.
they're gnarly.
It's like the mega ramp. Like
same thing. Yeah,
I'm not good at it or anything, but the more you ride like the quarter, the more you realize like, dude, if you go
Get
faster, it
comfy.
just feels like better. It's fucking terrifying. It's so big, but it's like when you go really slow and try and air out 6 inches, you're like, oh my god, and you pull it a flat. But if you give it some speed, it just turns into this really like
Yeah.
it has so much training to land flat. It's like you can see dudes are doing quadruple down whips out of it now. Whereas
Yeah,
like
it's
when
the-
they first
it's-
started riding it, no one was airing more than like 12, 15 feet. Now they go
So
23
wild.
feet and
It's like
whatever trick they want.
it's like the Hoffman big quarter thing where he's like, all right, well, I can go 10 feet out of a 10-foot quarter. Can I go 20 feet out of a 20-foot quarter? And then there's a third element of what if I make bigger wheels and I make a 30-foot quarter? Can I air 30? You know, like the physics, the science of it is
Yeah.
definitely there.
and
you
that's been a part of the progression of slopestyle too. Is like the features just like we know we can do bigger tricks if there's more airtime. So like the drops get bigger, the step downs get bigger, the jumps get bigger, and it's like
But you're doing a great job at making like the lips, the landings bigger. So it's like
making them more dialed too, like knowing the radius and things like that. Yeah. So
know?
it's
Have you ever shown up and been like, what the fuck are we doing?
oh my god, dude, there's so many times like I've showed up at courses and I'm like, yeah, there's no way we'll be able to ride this.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible. And then we like people get hurt and then they change it.
And then- oh, really?
Yeah, like
Oh,
for
wow.
sure, you're like, this isn't gonna happen. And then there's other times where you're like, oh, fuck, we gotta ride this. This is so gnarly. And then we're riding it. And we're like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I wish I had something like that for BMX, like a slopestyle course with like rails and stuff, but
Dude,
just scale down a little bit.
So cool.
Well, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the Empire Dirt.
thing. Oh,
Yeah,
so
so
great.
That
good.
was
so cool.
really,
I mean, that literally
really
is
cool.
that is a slopes. That was
that
a
was
slope
BMX
style course,
slopestyle.
but
with a rail.
incorporated BMX features
Yeah.
and like
Like a
things that
street
you guys
spine,
can, yeah,
rails.
totally.
Yeah.
You guys can like do better tricks than and a mountain biker's gonna do. It's like that's perfect.
I don't
Like,
know.
who
I see
cares?
I mean, I've seen some crazy shit.
It just
on
allows
mountain
for more
What's that?
option. Just that setup allows for more options for BMX. Like
Yeah.
I think mountain bike could still do insane stuff down that whole line, but the features that are built are catered to BMX.
Yeah.
But
It
that's
would
the best mix of both worlds, I think.
It would be cool if there was like some sort of. We always talked about it with when Ride was around and Bike Mag was around. If I always wanted to do some sort of collab type thing, but those guys are always kind of put up a wall about it, you know.
Yeah.
What, like not collabing?
Even just like a video series where it's like, oh, we're just kind of like clowning on each other, but then it's like a mix and a crossover, or, you know, like kind of the skate contest idea where it's like it's a BMXer and a mountain biker in a video or something like that.
They
It's
did
like
it
a
with the
video
Ray's
thing.
Odd Couple thing back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, Ray's Odd
But it's kind
Couple,
of weird to
yeah.
have the mountain bikers in a small park like that. Not small, but like it looks small for mountain biking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
for
cool
sure.
if there was like a course that
It's just like,
really did almost.
can
have
you cater to
elements of
both sports?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, and that's the thing. And like, you know, I've always like whatever random conversations like. Be so sick to do something with like Dennis or like, you know, Chris Kyle, like, or something, you know, like you have like a dual video, but like how do you make sure that like both athletes can do their sport and it's like
Show it off well.
both are showed off in the best light?
Yeah, yeah.
Not like, oh, it's like this looked better for the BMX or that looked better for the mountain bike. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's so tough.
It is why it is. It's like
Yeah.
the BMX is so good for certain things and mountain bike is so good for certain things.
Yeah.
Like they both look great in their own light.
has their application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like we were talking about the grass is always greener. You know a lot about the BMX industry, I'm sure, or like at least like see into it and like.
I know a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, like, but I don't think I know a lot. Like, obviously, I look at the BMX industry. Like, I go to our BMX every day. Like, but I don't go to Pink Bike every day.
Shout out.
Sorry, Pink Bike. But it's like I don't really care to like.
We were just joking before and that they were going to post this, and now they're not going to.
But like, I don't like because I'm so involved in the industry, and I like maybe I know what's going on. Maybe you guys feel the same, but I'm like I don't need to like look at mountain bike stuff all the time, or maybe it just doesn't excite me anymore. But I can look at like Thrasher Mag and like BMX websites and all this other stuff and get like stoked. Or
because
like,
you're totally involved in the industry, so you know what's going on. You're talking to these people, you're seeing it all on your Instagram.
You're submersed in it every day.
Yeah.
You don't need
You're too close to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, too close to it. Yeah. And so I look at these other sports, like especially BMX, like which is probably at the top of the list, and I'm just like, man, it's so sick. Like I wish like we could pull this piece of their culture and bring it into our world.
What would you say is like a piece of BMX that you like more so?
It just feels more core. And then like they're just like I don't know if this is like a good or a bad thing in your guys' site, but like they're really true to their like BMX is really true to their values. Whereas mountain biking just always changes. It's like impossible to be like the bikes are always changing. People always just like nerd out on things. It's not like hey, we're just doing this. This is cool. Like this is how it is. Like skateboarding. It's like skateboard's been the same for how long. Mm-hmm. But mountain biking is changing all the time. There's like a million standards, which is it fuels the industry, which is like so it's good because it gives me an opportunity to have a job and do this as a living and no complaints there, but it's also like in my like me just wanting to be core and just like I just want a mountain bike and I just want it to be like cool and not like always have to change and I don't know.
So that is funny you say because it really is like kind of a grass is greener type thing. There's two parts of it. It's like because I have that little Sweetwater dirt park down the road from here, and I hear mountain bikers just they're like not riding the bike and they're just nerding out.
Yeah, they just want to talk about it.
I can't do this because of this setting.
Yeah,
or this
it's
thing.
like, dude, like.
Well, that's a great thing I think you guys have is no offense to these people, but posers, which are great for industries. Like not people that they like the bike and
intro,
it
newcomers.
Yeah,
posers.
Yeah.
well, BMX there is no posers.
There isn't.
There's skate posers.
That's what I'm saying.
There's like mountain bike nerds that are just like hyped on it.
It's more about like being
it's a
like
cool thing.
buying
like,
the stuff and being able to like be involved because you bought a nice bike.
Exactly.
It's not like, dude, I love mountain biking. I don't like. I'll just ride whatever. Let's just go. Like I just love that mentality of like let's just go. Like you've got a skateboard, you got a BMX. It's all the same to me.
BMXers are just.
But mountain bikers are
like,
well, I've got my like this and that, and I've got this and that. And you're just like, it doesn't really matter. Like but people
give me your bike. It'll be fine.
People just get kind of like caught up in like trends of product and things like that,
which is great for your industry. Though.
Great for the industry because then on the BMX side we have. I don't want to say zero innovation, but you can bolt up every single part from a bike 10 years ago
and
to a bike right
so
now.
But we work towards that.
And that's
that's what
it's
BMX
by design.
But mountain biking, I feel like their whole thing is like all the advancements and stuff that comes from mountain biking is from racing. So it's like they're always on the cusp of trying to create the next lightest or fastest or whatever. But it's like BMX, I feel like we just wanted to make our bike strong and solid, and then now like you could buy a part from any company and you're pretty much riding the same thing. Like,
True.
Mountain biking's like always trying to
evolve. But it's also a bit self-defeating in a lot of ways because the industry won't accept a slightly wider hub or something like that. Even though it could be objectively better, we won't do it because we'd have to change every single fucking thing else and it would be a pain in the ass, and then so BMX stays the same, which is fucking beautiful in so many different ways. But like
in
but
aspects.
We're also not accepting of many things.
It would be so insane. Like just seeing like how far mountain bikes have come in the last like 5 years. Like if you could take that like technology and engineering and put it towards BMX and see what you could just come up with, it'd be like insane. Like
I always think of like when I see a mountain bike and it's like a hardtail, no suspension, no anything, and it's just like a mountain bike bar and it's like got BMX pedals and BMX cranks and they're calling it a dirt jumper, and I'm like, that's a BMX bike. That's just like a BMX bike with like bike. With funny handlebars.
Yeah, totally.
No offense, but like with funny handlebars, and it's like, but that's BMX pushing that away. BMX would never accept that. So and mountain bikers like, come to us, you know, and that's like,
and that's what I say
always
too
like,
about like BMX is like, we need to ride these bikes on this jump, you know, like the whole the theory I'm going off with, like there's the right tool for the right thing, and when those are like the dirt jumpers are like closer to BMX almost in that side of like the fancy mountain biking where everyone's like worrying about like the gadgets and the racing stuff.
Totally.
It's so beautiful and so frustrating in a sense, because I'm like,
it's all the same
I'm
thing.
Well, I'm just saying from like the BMX side of like how we just like don't embrace stuff, but I'm also part of it as well. So because I don't embrace things in certain different, at the end of the road I may embrace it, but then like during I'm like fight it, you know, like change, you
like
know,
plastic
like that type
pegs and free coasters
yeah.
and all that stuff. Like everyone wanted to fight it because it was different.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people knew, like, dude, this is just going to be way cooler for everyone and way better and way more fun. But like BMX doesn't change.
Yeah, like how dare you use plastic pegs and bring a ledge to the streets?
You're not sliding. You're not grinding. You're sliding. Yeah, BMX doesn't like change or people doing different things.
It's awesome.
There's
you
a
know,
middle
it's
ground
like so
somewhere
funny,
that hopefully both industries can get to. You know, like we don't need to be super advanced, but we don't need to stick to our super core values to the end of the grave. You know, like I think there needs to be a little bit of room for both to grow.
Dorky side of mountain biking, and that's like, I think this is like just the plus side of it all, is like it's so inviting for everything and everyone. Like,
especially
you ride
now.
a trials bike, well, sure, that's mountain bike. Or you ride,
that's
you know, like a bigger BMX. Why not?
Yeah.
That's
BMX
us
puts
too.
a line right here and says, nope, this is BMX.
Mountain biking is just like, we'll just take it. Like,
why is that line there?
You know, honestly, with your viral video, if I posted it, when I would post non-BMX stuff on the ride site, I would literally put in all caps, that's not BMX, whatever the title was.
Right.
Like, just to bring people in and be like, you know, intro them, but like, it's funny you said that's not
BMX.
Yeah, but it was so BMX, and that's why I posted it, but because you're on a different
a lot
bike.
of the influence is BMX.
Yeah.
Like, I watch these dudes, especially, like the whole Market Crew, Fiend Crew, all that stuff. Like, that's like, I'm like, live for that. Like, when new stuff was coming out, I'm like, this is what I want to watch. I wasn't watching mountain bike stuff.
Yeah.
It was like that, and skate and ski and snowboard, like, you know, the dudes that were pushing
BMXers
it
are watching mountain bike stuff.
Yeah, it's cool that they're like, now that maybe there's some transition there where like we can provide some inspiration for other sports too.
Yeah,
for sure,
it
definitely
is there. Yeah, I mean, like whatever Sebastian Keep's video was pure snowboarding.
Dude, that was
insane. So stuff like that is like, you know, and then you take a mountain bike. Well, I don't know, would that work better? Because suspension would shoot you off the wall.
Yeah, I don't
probably.
think so.
Yeah.
Dude, he found an application to take like big features to BMX.
Yeah.
Is like I don't know. You would know better than me because he's actually good at that stuff. But I feel like riding that stuff on a full suspension would be kind of gnar.
Yeah,
it's the compressions
and the
are gnarlier.
And everything,
the compression on jumping into that steep tranny with suspension, I think would be hard to hang on to. Like I've started to notice like stuff that I could hang on to on my BMX
rebound,
and stuff. Like it's just.
That's very
couple clicks off and it would have worked.
That's the only mountain bike word I know.
No, I think like the shit he was doing is gonna be hard to hang on no matter what. But I think there's certain things like riding Dennis's vert wall in his backyard. The first time I hit it on my dirt jump bike, I was like, whoa, you know, tight tranny.
Yeah,
like
it's the equivalent of like a 6 foot vert quarter.
You got
BMX
bigger
bike,
wheels. There's more volume. It's wallowy, and then there's a suspension, and the wheels are bigger. Like there's just like more going on. Whereas BMX is like solid for like a skate park application where it's like cement and it's hard and like you want something that's just like rigid and like predictable.
So Christian probably prefaced you, but like, if you were a Ride BMX magazine subscriber back in the day, I used to answer the letters. And traditionally, the letters, whoever answered the letters was an asshole. And so when I came into the role, it was like, all right, I'm going to get hammered and just say the most like out of line thing I could think of. And of course, the mountain bike thing like kicked off. And it was at the beginning awkward phases of mountain biking. And I always just said it's the wrong tool for the job if you're going to the skate park, essentially. Like if you're riding BMX like on a mountain bike, it's probably, and it's like because back then there was no hardtails really. They always had suspension,
and if there was, they weren't very good.
Yeah, and it was like, and there was always weird things like, I can't think of the magazine, but somebody had like they put somebody sliding a rail on the cover with like,
he was probably wearing like a full face and like
and it was
and
like the first rail on a mountain bike, and it's like who cares? Like, and it was like, that was always, and that was such an awkward phase for mountain biking as they like figured out where they were going with this stuff. And I was playing a role. And so I was always like, it carried over for so long. And then Christian and I always get into it too. So
for sure. I mean, for me, like obviously I feel way more comfortable on a mountain bike than I do a BMX. But when I go to a skate park, I'm just like, riding my mountain bike, it just doesn't work for me. I'm like, the BMX feels right. Yeah. It's like I only ride my BMX in a skate park, like not because I feel like I have to, but because I just like, it's even like little things like, oh, I got pegs and I can do turn downs now. It's like now I'm like get to do all this stuff I don't normally get to do, and it just feels right. Like the transitions feel good, and like the bike fits in places, and I get to grind and do this other stuff. So I mean, there's lots of.
You can't do a turn down on a mountain bike, can you?
No.
I
mean, you'd have to have some like crazy high bars. Yeah.
Didn't Bear Claw have some weird frame that like between his frame shape and his bar height, he was like able to do lift back.
The slope bike he had one year had like a really like low like top tube, like a lot of standover, and dude, he like switch 3 look back like the gnarliest step down at Crankworks one year.
I was like, damn, like we
insane.
can't even do that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and then he broke his hand doing it in finals, and I broke my collarbone on the same thing.
On the same jump?
The same jump. Yeah, it was like this gnarly. It was like a ski jump. It was just like a big wedge and a massive landing that went into the village, and it was like
a horrible design.
It was like a 30, 40 foot step down. You were like pinning it at like, and he was doing switch spins off. It was crazy.
So how come there's like, okay, so say there's like Haro. There's not very many of those who do like from very small little kids bikes all the way through BMX to like road bikes and mountain bikes and everything. But then you have like Trek and they just do like all the mountain bikes. It's like there should be more companies that just rip the whole thing and get everyone together more and like.
Trek had Miraco.
Oh,
they were a distributor, or they were like an owner of the company. So there was a while there where I was like, I was trying to get Miraco bikes from them because like, dude, I want to start riding BMX. Can I get hooked up? Yeah, and then like I know like other brands like Specialized and Giant, and these dudes had BMX.
There's been
frames,
some, yeah.
And then it's like everyone just like wiped it. It's just like we're just mountain bike now.
Well, it's because like I said earlier, BMX wasn't like come here, big bike. We wanted BMX brands only and rider owned, etc., which is beautiful and cool. Self-defeating.
And
in certain
think about
ways.
The brand too. They're probably looking at, dude, look how many of these fucking mountain bikes and road bikes we're selling, and then they're like, look at this, because BMX is just so small. They're probably like, all right, why are we going to put our efforts and money into this if it's such a small little?
It's like a cigarette, dude. You get them into riding bikes, and then they're riding a Specialized, and they buy a Specialized.
I mean, I see the reason behind it, but if you're a big brand, you're probably just crunching numbers. And you're like, dude, this doesn't make sense.
Here, like, little kid, take this Specialized.
We're there doing tricks on mountain bikes, but in hindsight, like we're only there to make the sport look cool. Like I mean, in a lot of mountain bike companies' eyes, like we're not selling product. Yeah. Like not selling a lot of product, but
selling
it's
the brand. You're getting
selling
people
the
hyped
brand,
on the brand.
but it's just like
you're
BMX.
You're the
BMX
supercar to sell the
is
high on
that.
guy,
Like
basically.
BMX has culture, and it's like it's been around longer. It's cool. It's like you could bring that in too, and have like
a little more streetwear culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Trek could have like Trek BMX, and it's like you just dump some money into this really cool team, and you sell a shitload of.
Someone might just buy a cruiser bike because they think their BMX bikes are cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's why BMX struggles a little bit in the sense of like it can no outside bikes, because like if say like Colt sold like cruiser bikes and some more like adult bikes so they could ride with their kids while they ride BMX or you know what I mean, like
they do a little bit, but yeah, it's I think BMX is kind of learning their lesson in a lot of ways from that, and they are kind of venturing out, but it's like I
remember when Volume was like they were doing
Sledgehammer.
They were even doing Fixies. And they were and Brian like was like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to get like put Volume's name in a bad rep with BMXers, even though like the Fixies were killing it, making so much money, and I was like, dude,
but he did, cares? And that like, carried them for a while. Yeah. So it was like, dude, like you. But
do you think it affected the brand or brand image?
I'm sure there was people that hated, but it's like, dude, who cares about those handful of people that hated when like that
make
literally
it cool.
Like,
if it's cool in the Fixie world, then like they could want to buy a BMX bike too, and vice versa. It's like why not just it could, why not? I think it's probably really hard just to start a brand and be like, we're gonna do everything, but it's like why not just bridge the gap a little bit more. It's all bikes, like
I think it's starting like with Brad, riding for 510, like there's brands starting to come in where like the BMX and mountain bike stuff's crossing over, and I think it's like
so 510 it's a mountain bike shoe company, right?
It's owned by
Adidas.
Yeah, it's like they've been mountain bike shoes and
just
climbing
mountain bike.
No, it's like outdoor shoes. It's like
shoes.
climbing, hiking, mountain biking, but then Adidas came in and bought them. But now, like, you know, that's cool that Brad's now getting paid and riding for a company that stemmed from
you,
mountain biking.
you ride for him now too, right? So how
that's interesting.
do they? Sorry, we're making this a Christian podcast.
No, we don't have to
now.
talk. I was literally just,
I mean,
just saying mountain biking coming.
I was
to
just
BMX,
I was saying
like,
when they
it's
you know, like
Semenuk
as a
and mountain bike
podcast. as you know, like when they're talking to you about a sponsorship deal, do they care about BMX or is it all mountain
No,
bike?
they're like genuinely like stoked on what BMX is doing, like everything about it. Like just like Brandon's hyped on BMX.
Yeah.
Like
Brandon rides for Etnies.
Yeah, which is like complete opposite.
Well,
Yeah,
I wanted to
that's
talk about that.
interesting,
I
too.
wanted to
Yeah.
talk about that too. Obviously, the section and chapters and stuff like that, and how that came about, and what
Yeah.
reception you got. Oh, they got the head itch. You're like, oh shit.
No, it's good. Sorry. Yeah. I was like, that was really interesting because obviously, like,
Because I don't think nobody knew. Because I was at the premiere
For
and
sure.
everybody was like, whoa.
and it's funny. Like, I'll
Did
dig
you
into
guys
it.
even know? I feel
I
like
did. I
think
didn't
that's the
know,
thing.
and it
Yeah,
was
I
kind of like random. Like, I was like, I actually feel bad about it because I'm like, I wish I put more effort in.
I heard
'Cause
they were like throwaway clips essentially.
kind of like I was super busy that year, so I didn't have a ton of time to film stuff. But I was sort of like, Pova hit me up, and Pova's always been like my homie.
Shout out to
So,
Pova.
like,
We've,
yeah.
we've quoted
man.
and talked about Pova
Yeah.
on this podcast.
You
Many
got to
a
get him
time,
on
so.
here.
That'd
great.
be
Yeah.
sick. Yeah.
But
we
yeah,
need to get more old guys.
damn right. But he hit me up and he's like, dude, like we're doing the movie, like you should give me some clips. And I was like, we'll give him some clips. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way these are going in the movie.
Yeah, you're thinking
They're
like a
not-
guest clip or something.
Like
like
I
that.
was like, do you want me to film like BMX stuff?
That would've
Because
been
I
fucking
was
crazy.
like, dude, I'm down, but I don't like, you know, he's like, no, we want mountain bike stuff. And I was like, okay. I was like, there's no way they're going to use this. So like, whatever, we had some clips. I think I filmed maybe like one or two like newer clips for it. But that whole relationship started like, I had like really gnarly like heel bruising for like a year. And I was like riding all sorts of, I was with Nike and then that program dropped, the mountain bike program.
that's where the heel bruising came from.
And then I started running like other shoes. Like I was getting like a hookup from like Circa and like all these random shoe companies. And I was just like riding whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, smash my heels. And then I was like struggling. And then I found like a pair of Etnies and they were like good cup soles. And I was like starting to ride like normal again and like could jump off on stuff. So I was like, just kind of stuck with it. And I, like the distro kind of hooked me up with a bunch of shoes, but I was like blasting through shoes. And then I got Pova's number, like the distro shouldn't have gave it to me, but they did.
Yeah.
And then I hit up Pova and he's like,
Who the
and
fuck
I
are you?
didn't know this at the time, but like he was really like, I don't think he was like very pro mountain bike in his days. But so I like hitting up Pova and I don't like know much about him, but then like he was like, yeah, man, I'll flow you some shoes. And I was like, cool. But he was like straight up like, nothing will ever come from this. He's
Wow.
like, we'll give you shoes, but don't ever expect us to like sponsor you or like pay you. So he's like, I recommend you finding another like shoe company if one comes around. And so whatever, we like,
Shout out to Pova. That's
Yeah.
that's the real.
That's very
Pova.
he was straight
Yeah,
up and I
very
was like, dude,
Pova.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that
Yeah.
because I hate someone that's like,
It's like the
kinda-
doctor that says, "Oh, you're never gonna ride bikes again," but
They
they're just like
rope
giving
you
you the
along.
worst
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, man, I was like riding the shoes for forever, like before anything ever happened. Like, and then he started to be like, dude, like we really appreciate it. And he would just like flow me bikes, like BMX bikes or parts or stuff,
That's
like just
cool.
to be like, hey, we can't pay you, but like, here, I'm going to give you something. And I was sick. I was like, dude, I'm stoked on that. Like, that's awesome. And then the chapters thing came around and I was like, no way he's going to put these clips in. And then it was like a little mini part in there. I was like, dude, I like should have actually just like, filmed something, like
Yeah.
spent some like more time on it.
Yeah, they
It was
didn't
like-
tell you it was gonna be in there. It was just
Well,
like,
they did, but like,
He kind of did,
Yeah.
but it was like, you should send us clips and we'll try and put you in the movie.
Didn't know you were gonna get a
But I
full
didn't
part in a
really
BMX
know
video.
what it was. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, in my head, I was just like, there's no way.
When that video came out, I like watched it on the airplane and I filmed it and I sent it to Rupert, the dude who filmed it. I'm like, yo, it's sick. You guys have a section in this. And he's like, what the hell? Like, I didn't know we were having a section in that. Like, literally, like.
So he didn't edit it or
like-
anything. You just sent the clips. And
No,
then they-
like we filmed some clips and
Manzori.
Rupert
Wow.
sent it to Mike, and
Yeah.
that was that.
crazy.
that's crazy.
So it was super random.
Was it? What was the? Did you get any reception at any point?
People
from
seemed
it?
stoked.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I never really like got any. There was no like negativity
Okay, good,
towards
yeah.
it at all. Like,
It's one of my favorite parts in the video.
thanks. Yeah,
I love
It was-
that part.
I was stoked to just get in there and like it was cool, and I feel like that really like stemmed like their progression to want to like support more.
You would know. Was it Etnies BMX on Instagram, and then
It
they
was,
switched it to
yeah,
Etnies
it was
bikes? So
Etnies
there's, like-
BMX for the longest time,
Yeah,
and then they
and then they
switched
switched
it.
it
I
to
think
bikes.
then once they really like were started
That's
doing
cool.
stuff with Brandon and making shoes,
That's what it
like
should
all right,
be.
like
Like-
this needs to just be Etnies bike. Like
Mhm.
it's we're making bike shoes. Like, so I think it's cool that they did that.
I like when people do that. It's like Oakley has like Oakley bike, and it's just like every type of bike.
It's like it's weird when they're brands under one thing where it's like we're just this and they post everything. I think there needs to be bike specific, and I think that's cool that they just kept it neutral. It's not BMX, it's not mountain bike. Like it doesn't need to be its own mountain bike thing. I think it's just bike. That's good. See everything right there that's bike related. That's awesome.
So is there more people on Etney's bike
Yeah.
that aren't BMXers now? Did you, like,
there's
help
like
grow a little...
Emil Johansson.
Oh, cool.
Like obviously he's like the
Christian, can you grab the door behind you?
The dude in like slopestyle mountain bike right now. He's
so
gonna win everything if there's an event.
My
He's on there
home,
now.
So fair warning if a 2-year-old
Yeah,
banged
no
on the
worries.
door. So
He's on there now, and then a bunch of other dudes, like some people getting flow and whatnot. I know Christian's right. Oh no, Christian was around the shoes. 5'10", sorry.
Which is
My
so
bad.
loaded with
He didn't even
sponsors
hear
now.
that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Pava for keeping my
Hooking
feet
it up
going
for
for
years.
9 years.
Yeah.
that's for real.
So
But
did you help
there's
with
quite a
all
few.
that, like telling them who you think is sick and
Yeah,
leading
I've
them in the right
been-
direction for some...
They've taken it in their own hands a little bit, but I've been like super involved through the whole process, like, and especially with like a number of the shoes and things like that. Like I've been trying to help the best I can, just direct them in like an industry they don't like know particularly. Like they're getting really good at understanding it now, but it was so new to them in the beginning. So I'm like, here's like how I picture like doing things. We do it right, like do it core and not feel like we're just like making a shoe that like it's not really a mountain bike shoe. It's like let's make like proper shoes, make sure we have good product before we like get in there and put it on people's feet. And then now they've kind of taken that momentum and now they're going pretty hard with it.
That's cool. In mountain biking, like it's a great thing in BMX how we've kind of like, it's usually the rider is a team manager and they're a lot of times rider owned. Is mountain biking more ran by like a corporate side?
Yeah, are there rider-owned mountain bike companies?
And team managers and things like that?
The team managers are usually people that have been, invested in the industry a long time, whether they're an athlete or just like worked with companies and brands. But it's not, I would imagine it's nothing like BMX and skate. It's pretty.
There's like, is there like a
they're
cult
bigger
where like Robbie
corporations.
Morales owns it, a
It's
pro
not
from
like
10 years
4
ago?
dudes in one.
There are
small
those
office.
brands like
Because when we went to Santa Cruz, I
Don't
was like,
minimize
whoa.
BMX like that.
Like I ride for a brand that's like Chromeg, and they make like bar stems, pedals, and they make some like they make frames and things too. But it's like more of like this like core niche brand, and they all ride, and they've been it's a Whistler brand. They've been like around the scene a long time, so it's very like they take Fridays off and ride every Friday.
But that's how
that's how
starts,
the business
is,
runs.
Yeah,
you know?
and it could grow. People could gravitate towards
Exactly.
that, and then that brand gets bigger, and then their first full blown.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're making.
I didn't know if
mountain
there was-
bikes
There are
brand-
brands like
yeah.
that, but like I would say like the big brands, like there's no frame
Because once
companies that are just like rider owned. It's like these are big business. There's so much
There's
like
so
goes
much-
into
Which
it.
the grass
I mean,
is
like, how
always
much is-
greener for me. I'm like, that's sick too,
Yeah,
to have
for
like...
sure.
Doesn't a mountain bike cost like $10,000?
There's some really expensive ones.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of entry level ones now. Like you can get, they're so good now. Like you can buy like a complete mountain bike, and it might not be all the top line stuff, but it actually works so good. Whereas like that used to be like no, like you had to buy the best stuff to even have a bike that was worth buying.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like you can buy.
2,500 to $3,000 could get a BMX dude or somebody on a mountain bike where they could go out and have fun and
and
you'll
be
have to-
set up good.
You'll have to change something at some point, but you could get out rolling.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But then there's like insane
It's
bikes. Like
still expensive.
yeah, it's
still-
expensive.
Yeah, it's not
Exactly,
cheap.
for sure.
That's why people buy dirt bikes instead. But it's like if
Yeah,
you really
that's
want to
crazy.
just have a bike that you can
Because
go ride.
$2,500 or $3,000, you get a pretty
Yeah,
dope dirt
but
bike
then
to
you
go
need a
rip
trailer,
around.
you need a spot to ride. It's
That's
like
the thing.
True.
It's like mountain
Now
bike.
you
You
just
just ride,
rip that
pedal out your
bitch
back
down
door,
there.
and
Yeah,
you're
you just
there.
go
I
ride.
know.
BMX.
I would personally rather have a mountain bike for sure.
Yeah. They're just capable now. Like the old mountain bikes, they would break all the time, and they weren't that fun to ride. Now it's like a trail bike is like you can go ride a bike park all day and have no issues, and it's super fun. You don't feel the chatter, and yeah, it's pretty sick.
That probably helps a lot with bike shops too, because as a BMXer, when I give my buddy a garage bike, like taking old parts and putting them together, they'll get a flat and it's the end of their career. You know, it's like, damn it, like, or the bars are moving. They're like, how do you do this? And I'm like, dang, and there's not like too many BMX shops you could take it into. Like that's got to really be great for the mountain bike industry, because you need, like, if I had a really nice mountain bike, I wouldn't even bother. I'd just be like, can you guys fix it? And I'll throw you some cash to make it really nice. So
and I
can get
think
riding
that's
again.
a part of.
'Cause they're like there's a lot of mechanics to a mountain bike.
There's I think the mountain bike industry, like especially these bike brands, they know how important bike shops are. Like if we just sell direct, we're gonna ruin like the culture and like people being able to like connect with the bikes. Like if people can't go into a bike shop and get like a friendly interaction and get help, like, oh, how do I set this up? How do I do that?
You guys are killing it with that.
Like that's the thing is like, I feel like I know Trek and like a lot of these other big brands, like they really try and help just like the local bike shops, like anyone that they're working with, just to make sure that they're good. And like, they've always got parts, there's always warranty. People can like, you know, get
They're
an
showing
understanding.
them spots to ride. They're giving them
Exactly.
lessons. They're
Here's
like
a
tweaking
trail
on their
map.
bikes. Like
You know?
Even when I went to Chainline Bikes in San Diego, they helped me out with my BMX bike because they're like closer to my parents' house out there, and I wanted to get something dialed in. Like the amount of like community they had, so many people in there working on their bikes. Everyone's hanging out. They're going on rides later. I was like, that could. I looked at that as like, we need to kind of move in that direction for BMX. Like have a cool shop to hang out at. Like Henry used to be in Santee, even though he's gone now. But like more stuff
BMX
like
shops
that.
will do jams, but I feel like a jam is like the extent of like what a BMX shop does to like connect with them. But like literally like the mountain bike scene in San Diego like wouldn't be what it was without Chainline out here, because they do everything they can. They're building the trails. They're teaching people how to
And
ride.
they'll show you
They're
where the
like,
trails are.
Yeah,
Which is like,
like-
I'm sure BMX is like, we're building dirt jumps. Like, not going to tell anyone where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there could be
Smart.
like a really nice shop next to the Claremont Park, you know, and like
Exactly. You're
they
like,
could- people need to
go
be
there.
more down to like to take
Yeah.
a BMX bike. I feel like it's as a BMXer, you don't like, you're like, I don't get my bike fixed at the shop, you know, but
Right.
it's really nice if you're a kid to get
Well,
it
I
dialed in.
think yeah. I mean, it just
Money.
well, BMX as a whole is like kind of gone to that like you need a 6 mil and a 17.
yeah, we
Yeah.
You know, so
It is
it's
really
like
easy.
it's
it
sick
is
because
it-
it's so simple.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really
so
nice.
It's like that's by design that you almost don't need the bike shop, or by
Yeah.
like consequence, I guess maybe.
Dude,
is
bike
it?
shops
After a
make
year
all
of
their money
riding, you
from
know how
maintenance,
to-
like,
Yeah.
Keep
YouTube,
your bike
YouTube and a
dialed.
6 mil Allen key, you're good.
So funny. I brought my BMX with me here, and it
Hell
was
yeah.
like, I have a 6 mil, an 8 mil, and a 17. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
all I needed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It took like 5 minutes
That's pretty sick, right?
just to
It
put it in
took-
the box.
It
Yeah.
took me 4 different sized tools to take off the things on my handlebars the other day on my mountain bike. And every time I work on my
Crazy.
bike, I'm just like, dude, like, this
I
is
was-
insane. Like, how?
I was on a shoot and like a hanger broke or something
Oh, yeah.
on a mountain bike, and it was like 2 GTs, and it was like the hanger was different between them, and it was like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
why?
Just a lot of standards, you know.
like,
It's
And
hard.
that's,
So-
I wish there was like, we could bridge the gap a little more where it was like a hanger or something like that. That's like, you know, it's a consumable
Universal,
part.
yeah.
It just doesn't ever, like if it just didn't have to change, like if we could, that's like something you go to any bike shop and you just get it. Like a BMX crank, it's like pretty much fits any BMX frame.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like mountain bike ones, there's a lot of standards, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I mean.
it's like a
it's
pro
so-
and a con.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
like I was thinking if something goes on with my free coaster right now, I wouldn't even like, I don't have like a local shop even. There's SD Wheelworks and they're great,
Totally.
but they're like, you know, they're so busy with COVID and everybody and their mother rides a
Mm-hmm.
beach cruiser and a road bike nowadays, you know, like to get my free coaster fixed, so it might be a 2-week wait or
Yeah, we
something.
forgot about SD Wheelworks. Shout out
They're
to them.
great.
Fuck
Yeah, shout out
They
SD Wheelworks.
They are.
They're
They
holding
are
it
like
down.
the one, and they are next to Claremont.
Yeah,
so
they're
that was a
dope.
full-
That's
full-
sick.
that was
But I'm just like what Henry's used to be, East County BMX.
Yeah,
There was a couch and a bike video on, and they do premieres and jams in the parking lot. It was like a.
That's cool.
It
You
was
want to
a-
go there and hang out.
Yeah.
Like,
It
even
was
if,
you want to go and hang out, yeah.
yeah,
the vibe.
even if you're not doing
Like if your
anything.
bike was messed up, you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go to Henry's.
Dude,
It
I
was-
looked forward to going over there to build a new bike just because, like, you know, like you get to hang out with Henry. Like you said, there's sick videos playing. There's always like locals popping in. You get to meet the local kids.
And that's
around
what the
there.
Chainline Bikes felt though when I went in there to visit Connor and have him help me out with something.
Dude,
I
they
was
know
like, this
everyone
is
on a name
sick.
basis.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so cool. I love it. I think like, but mountain bike shops, like maintenance is their thing. You know, like yeah, I'm sure they make good money selling bikes, but like you sell that
It's
bike,
more
it's
about-
coming back in. You
it's
know,
more about
so
the shop.
yeah,
Like-
you're gonna build a relationship because you know, like the second that bike leaves, they're gonna need to maintain that bike at least 2 times during the year, and they might break something. So it's like that's why I think mountain bike shops
Yeah.
are more
So you're
like
saying
building
they're-
that.
Are they making them difficult to work on purpose?
No,
I'm joking.
I don't think so.
It's just the industry,
I don't-
just the way it evolves. you
I don't
know?
think
No,
there's
I
a
know.
lot of like markup.
There's some
on-
innovation.
there's not a lot of markup on selling a complete bike at a bike shop. Like the bike shops aren't making tons of money
Yeah,
when they sell a bike, but they know like, okay, like he's gonna want his suspension reserviced or like just derailleur tuned up or his wheel trued or something like that. And it's like they're gonna come back in, and that's where we make our money.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good they keep it like that community.
Yeah,
and
they, like it's
they're
a good
riding
vibe. Like you
together.
want to feel welcome coming in with your bike, and we're gonna take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not going to come back and get their bike fixed on if you upsold them a $90 chain instead
Yeah.
of the $20 chain. They're going to be like, all right, fuck you guys. But like, if they're like, all right, we're cool. Hey, you actually don't need this. You could actually get this. Like, all right, cool. This shop's sick. They didn't try and screw me over. Like that's what my local shop did where I grew up. I went in there. They tried to sell me something crazy I didn't need, and I'm like, dude, screw you guys. Like, why would I come back to you guys when you guys just want to make money? Like shops like Chainline and other sick. I'm sure Braden's got a sick local shop by him. Like they value the people that come in there, and that's why I think.
Well,
they
those are
have
the
that.
shops that are still around.
Yeah.
You know, like if you get somebody that's just trying to get the $10 out of you and not realizing they're missing the 40 on the back end, then that's their fault.
Totally.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about contest stuff and projects, and I mean,
that's a pretty interesting thing that you were on top of the game in the contest slope series and all the other ones too, and you only really ride Rampage now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Before COVID hit, I don't know what your plans are in the future.
I mean, it was again like going back to just like there's a lot of different bikes, travel's gnarly, and you're like kind of bouncing between things. Like as like these kind of categories in the sport started to evolve and people started getting like more specific, like there's people that only rode slopes, like, well there are like most of the people that ride slopestyle are only slopestyle athletes now, and then there's like
they don't probably downhill, some of them, like,
no, yeah. Like some I know some of those dudes have never ridden a trail bike even, but they're just so like they ride a slope bike every day or hardtail every day, so they're just really good
just
at
their compound, and
that's what they're on. And then there's the same thing, people that only touch downhill bikes and they're free riders. So it's like it kind of like got to a point where I was so busy with like everything, like I do like a full slopestyle circuit, then I'd have like a web series, and then we do video projects, and then it was Rampage and some other big mountain events, and it just was like getting so hectic where I was getting kind of burnt on contests, because I would like, it's like we were going to a contest and feeling like I don't want to hurt myself at the contest because I'm like so stoked to go film this video part. But that's like not the mentality. It's like you need to go into that contest being like, I'm ready to send it like 100% whether I get hurt or not. Like even if I'm like land loose and in the next jump I'm like 100% committed to getting that next trick. But it was just like in my head, like I wasn't like vibing it because I wasn't doing anything. Like there's a while there where like I had to find like bring something new to an event every time to be like excited about it. Like, hey, my whole run's gonna be switch tricks, or my whole run's like I want to do this new trick on this feature. They have a setup for this trick that I learned. So I'd go there, and that was my motivation, was like, I get to show this. But then it was just like, I could do that with video projects too. And I could do it like, I could build specific setups, like, and I could do it way more of it. Cause there's a lot of setups that I would never
ideas that produce the trick.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's just like slopestyle setups, like didn't always offer up those opportunities. So then eventually it was just like, hey, I feel like I've done it all. Like, I don't need to keep trying to just win the same event, or, you know, like, it's like, if I win, I feel content. If I lose, I feel like I fail. Like, you know, if I got second place, then I'm just like, I feel like it's failure because everyone expects me to like win.
You've won so many. You're known as the guy.
And I'm not trying to be that dude. Like, I didn't really like.
Brandon's not as good as he used to be.
Yeah.
Do you think that would that have changed?
I mean, that's real.
That's how people
if the courses evolved more. Like,
they don't
if the
know.
courses
it would change.
And then he's going to this next.
Well,
thing.
I look at like the.
Well, it parallels what
the bowl series. Like, it gave all these riders that. Like Sergio Leos and like all these other dudes that like
contests.
Sort of like they were like insane at contests and they weren't really doing contests, and now there's this new like format again, and now they're all suddenly like the dudes again. You're like, whoa,
Larry Edgar and all those dudes came to the top.
I think if slopestyle had changed like around the time where I was pivoting as well, I probably would have stuck with it. Like if there was a new format. Because I feel like people just started to like figure it out. Like, this is what you need to do. It's like
the boner log, this kind of hip. Like, they knew the jumps to build.
It's
to
so
train
fun.
for
It's so many parallels of things where it's like the, you know, almost shout out to Durs, but like the Durs format, you know, where it's like he had his like this scores well.
It's super
and
comparable.
I'm going to like mix it the same way.
It was like me riding those fees contests. It was like I'm doing so much other shit, and then I get here and like I can do my best and get second, you know, and I'm like third, you know, and I'm working. You're trying so hard, you know, and then I leave and I'm beat up filming for my next part. And it's like, dude, I totally understand where your head was at with that.
Yeah, and then like so the projects like started getting more opportunities there, and it was like the problem was I was like investing a lot of money in the projects. So it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to just like film stuff and build things, and like I was like, I don't want to just get stuck riding contests and not have all these like things in my head come to fruition. So I'm I need to just do the projects, get these like tricks and features out of my head and just do it. And I was like spending a lot of money out of my own pocket to do it. Like there was a number of years where I pretty much spent like all my salary on just filming, making cool stuff.
That's crazy.
And it all came around in the end, like
awesome
where
to
like
hear,
I've now I get cool opportunities where like I don't have to spend my money to do these stuff. But I went like
that's an investment in yourself as well.
It was
but
an
at the same
investment
time,
in
when
my
you're
future.
Like, I'm broke,
but I
right
also
now.
knew I needed to do it. Like
Yeah.
I just like I really need to do this. So
That's super cool to hear. Super cool to hear because a lot of people probably just think like, oh, he's so lucky. He's Brandon Semenuk and he gets to just do his dream projects.
Sponsors
But
probably
you,
paid for
Put
everything.
the
but-
obstacle here, please.
every once in a while, I'd get a cool opportunity where like Red Bull or SRAM or these companies would help out, and I'd get a bit of cash. But even then, I'd be like, me and Christian were talking about today.
more
Like,
money.
I'm like, I got this much, but if I put more money in, it'll be even better. And then I would just do it because I'm like putting everything into this. Like, I don't want money to be a factor. Like, I want to make sure it's like as 100%, like as best as it can be with like
That's amazing.
the
to
restraints
hear.
we have.
It's your own money going into making
Yeah.
your dreams come to life, but also what you don't really probably realize is it pushes the sport so far.
Yeah,
Even though you're not
I hope
riding the
so.
con- it is.
Yeah. And then, but at that time, it was like I was competing, but then I was like, man, I've got so much money invested in these projects. If I hurt myself at this contest, and this project doesn't
Added
happen, like,
pressure.
dude, it's gnarly. Like,
and then you're looking at the other guys on the deck, and it means the world to them, and it doesn't
100%.
mean anything
I'm
to
like-
you at that
they're like,
point.
I've won
Freedom,
this
sleep,
event.
that
They
shit,
haven't,
yeah.
like, and they're going to go insane. And not that I ever, like,
And even too for the next kid,
Yeah,
the next kid
totally.
that would take your spot, it means the world to them, and and it doesn't mean anything to you. It's like, back down.
And I always told myself I would never go into an event not prepared to like do my absolute best, whether like, not that I'm like, I need to win, but like, I want to go in there feeling like I'm going to be happy with what I do at the end of the day. And then eventually it was just like, I wanted to put more into the project stuff. And I just was like, I had an opportunity to start to like lean the events out. So I do a couple big slopestyle events, but then I was only giving myself like 2 opportunities a year to basically put that number on the board for the sponsors to be like, yep, you still got it. If I didn't go to Crankworks and win, I didn't have another opportunity to show that I could still win. So it was just like, then it was just like gnarly pressure of like, I'm literally doing one slopestyle event this year. And I know personally, like I'm going to be first or I'm going to be last.
Yeah.
Like that was like, and if I crash and I get a bad place, then that's what I've got to show from my contest series, that year. And then it was just like, eventually I got to wean it out, and I'm really fortunate that I have the opportunity I have. And then, we got to just go hard on production stuff and
You're
content.
not doing Rampage stuff anymore?
I will do Rampage this year. Yeah. So that was one event where it was like,
You don't put the pressure on
There's
yourself.
only one
it's
year
sort of what
anyways,
I'm
right?
doing all year round is like, granted, like the pressure of the contest is still there, but it's like going and doing a unique build with my friends and getting creative.
Yeah.
Like bringing ideas to the desert, like trying to think of things before I even get out there and try and bring those ideas to life
So you
when I
build
get there.
your own line for
we
those
build our own
contests.
line. So
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
not at the
I can
mercy
do whatever
of
I
them,
want.
like-
Like we don't
That's
know
cool.
whose line's going to win until the event's over. Like everyone's looking at everyone else's line like that's crazy, but then they're looking at yours being like I wouldn't ride that, you're crazy. So it's such a like cool event in that sense. So I'm like, it's at the end of the year. I don't really. It's less
Almost
of an
like a
issue.
project contest.
Exactly. It's less of an issue if I get hurt. Plus, it's like I get to just build what I want to ride.
What? Technical difficulty.
Oh no, it's gone. I couldn't see the red dot.
I looked over that earlier, and I kind of was thinking the same thing. I'm like, maybe because
I just couldn't. I just paranoia, dude. I just look all the time.
That's
Yeah.
cool though. So
Between my
Rampage
arm
is
and
kind of the one that you love.
Like they're-
Yeah,
At
it's
the
a cool
moment, it's
event.
like-
It's gnarly and it's
Fucking gnarly.
such an experience
It's
every
insane.
time. Like
there's no event like that in any
Dude,
other
it's
industry.
crazy.
Like
And
even for mountain biking, it's
Snowboarding.
Not like crazy.
snowboarding has some things.
The
yeah,
Travis
yeah.
Rice thing he did.
Totally. I mean, yeah, natural.
But like every
selection
year
stuff
for
and
like
yeah.
how long it's been running, like I can't think of anything else where it's like you hire a crew, you pick your crew, you build something.
Can
and
I
then-
ask more dumb questions?
Yeah, 100%. I love that question.
So, do you have? Is it all? How do they? Do you get given a section? Do you have a certain amount of crew members? Do you have a certain amount of budget?
Yeah.
Shovels?
And
Whatever. I
And
don't
again,
know.
this is developed over a number of years
Yeah.
because there was like restrictions, like like people started bringing power tools and like outdoor supplies.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's been a lot of restrictions over
You
the
can't
year.
bring
but,
a porta potty.
but basically,
you have to
it's
shit in
like
the woods.
hand tools, 2 diggers plus you. You've got 8 days, so there's 4 days of
Oh,
digging,
wow.
no riding,
and a blank canvas.
blank
to
canvas.
start
You can
with.
go anywhere on the hill. You've got to work with people.
Does the hill change every year? I don't know.
It's about every 2 years they change the venue.
Okay.
So like literally everyone's like let loose on the hill, like seeing it for pretty much most
It's like a
everyone, like
fucking
for the
race,
first
like,
time. Like
I call dibs over here.
yeah, like
So is
some
it
dudes
really
live
like
in
it?
Utah, so they might know the zone a little better.
Yeah.
But it's like sort of like they won't tell you where the zone is until it's like the day of the
That's what that was gonna be my
event.
next question. Yeah.
And then you go out and it's like 40 dudes just like let loose on the hill, or maybe more, 60 dudes. and everyone's like walking around trying to figure out a line top to bottom, which like takes a long time to build this stuff. And so like whatever, you work with people and you just try and figure it out. And it's like, obviously you want to find some like key features that are like going to be highlights of your run and things you can trick and whatever. So yeah, you're like 4 days to dig, you get a day off, and then 4 days to dig and practice.
Oh, wow.
And then you're like straight into the event the next day. So it's like, by the time you get there, you're absolutely destroyed.
Smoked, yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's what I was
So
going to say.
gnarly.
Is are you pacing yourself
so
because
cool,
you're
though.
digging? I mean, I guess you get the day off, but I mean, even still, 1 day off after.
If you have the ability to pace yourself, you're stoked.
Yeah.
Because like honestly, I feel like I go really hard like the first 4 days, like thinking, okay, I will have a day off, and then I could sort of like just tame it back a bit by like riding is actually my break during the day. Like I'll dig half the day and then ride half the day, and like me riding is actually going to be me taking a break, like saving my energy.
Physically mellow, mentally,
Which is like,
I'm sure
it's not even that,
yeah.
because we're like hiking our bikes.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah,
it'll
shit.
take a half an hour just to hike one feature.
Yeah.
And like, there's like how many hits down the hill. So
And when you think of building, you think of like
That's
BMX jumps, just like
crazy.
stacking dirt. Like
Yeah,
these
no,
dudes are
they're,
out
like,
here like
cutting
chipping
trails.
rock for
Yeah.
like a whole day and like making rock walls out of natural rocks or like sandbags and stuff. Like it's the gnarliest. You're hanging off a cliff. Like dudes are literally tying ropes and doing rock climber shit, hanging off the mountain so they could chip this fucking
there's
rock
literally
out.
like on average, like 2 full days, like not even like all together, but like they'll just be like 2 days. Like those 2 days, I know I'm just picking at rock the entire day for like 12 hours. You're like, that's all it is. You're like, okay, I just need to get this rock out.
They should explain that more, like on the
Yeah, the build's the
the
coolest
show.
part, man. Like
That's
honestly, I tell people, because people are like, oh, I want to
don't
go
know
watch
if I've ever seen the
Rampage. I'm
full
like,
show.
dude, you just need to
there's
see the
some
Is it
build.
like a half
BTS.
hour,
That's the coolest
hour
thing.
show or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they show little episodes of like, all right, we're here. We tagged
Yeah.
along with this build crew and kind of like you kind of see what goes.
Because I know
into
there was
it,
like some
but-
controversy about the build stuff a couple of years ago. I remember something of that, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, people, you just try and find shortcuts. Like anyone, you try and like, figure, how do we make this easier on ourselves? How do we make cooler stuff? And yeah, I mean, and I think that's where it's
So,
just,
as
it's
the years go on,
evolved.
people figure out ways to make it easier.
Totally,
for
it's
themselves, I'm
like-
sure.
Wasn't there not even water for a while?
Yeah,
like
like
isn't
we
water a new
used,
thing?
well, like in the last couple of years, they've figured out a way to like fill barrels at the top of the mountain,
Oh.
and so we can like siphon down into our line and water things. It's still like it goes empty all the time, so sometimes we're just spending like, so there'll be one digger all day just carrying water up the hill, up and down, up and down.
Wow.
But that used
How
to
much
be
do you pay these motherfuckers?
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
Yerpas of mountain bikes.
It's not worth
pretty much
not a
all
lot.
the dudes that are digging are just there because they want to be a part of the experience.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's-
I like, obviously
beast.
if I do when I do well like
The true
at the
champions.
event, those dudes are like, they're getting paid.
That's
you know,
awesome.
like
Yeah.
and like I do the best I can do regardless of like how I do, but there's a lot of dudes that can't afford to pay these guys, and they're just there and they're just doing it. They're just like, I'm gonna be a slave for like 10 days.
Like the gnarliest 10 days of your
Yeah.
whole
It's
like,
man
year.
camp.
Like,
Yeah, man camp. Yeah, crazy.
and it's
savage
hot,
shit.
dude. Like they're like flying fucking burritos up the hill with drones and shit. Like it's really gnarly. I just went last year for the first time.
No
after
power
watching
tools
it.
though. You can't fly
Yeah,
a drone.
yeah.
No, I'm joking.
But there used to be no water, and like we just have to carry like every day. We just like carry
Fuck.
like gallons and gallons.
And you're
of
just
water
like
up the hill.
sparingly using it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Damn,
Yeah,
that's
That is
insane.
brutal.
I didn't know it
pretty
was
crazy.
nowhere near
So
that crazy.
and then obviously the level of the riding like that is
And that's the
gone
thing.
crazy and
Dude,
It's
they're
so
like
gnarly
70-foot flat drop backflips and stuff
Yeah.
now. Like it's like you watch, like I trip out. Like I was there last year watching, like all the wives and the girlfriends are literally
stressed
sitting
out.
there.
It's like a mega ramp.
Like, dude, I could watch my significant other die today,
Yeah.
you know, and they're
Yeah.
sitting there like holding their 2 kids, like just hoping they make it to the bottom.
I'm
Like,
more
it's
scared for my
fucking
friends.
gnarly.
Like there's been times like Cam Zink's dropped in, and I'm like, I'm genuinely scared for his life. Like
Yeah.
I'm like more scared than for me to drop in on my run.
yeah.
It's like such a weird feeling. Like it's really cool, like because then it's like the community of like our sport comes out, where like everyone's like wants to see you make it down. Like
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
like, get that run, like so stoked for this.
Maybe dab a foot.
Yeah,
But make it
totally.
down.
Yeah, they're like, you're gonna crash. Like have a slide out, you know.
I'm pretty sure that they. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they talked Adolf Silva out of trying a double flip
Yep.
drop last year because they're
yeah.
just
For
like,
sure.
dude, like it's
Please.
not worth it.
No.
Like,
He's another BMX dude. He rode those.
Dude,
he rode those triple
rips on a
challenges.
BMX.
Yeah,
yeah.
Andreo
He's
was
like-
super good on a B. I think he rode Rebel Jam back in the day and things
Really?
like that.
Who?
Yeah,
That's sick.
Andreo Lugandigi.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
like from
Sick.
Barcelona.
Super
like,
super badass free rider now.
Okay.
Like he's mountain bike dude. He's won all sorts of
Yeah.
events. Yeah.
Then David Godziak too.
Yeah,
He's
totally.
Like a sick BMX.
Both of them,
Yeah.
Simon too.
Crazy,
Both those brothers
dirt
are
park
crushing
dude
it.
now.
Yeah,
he's
David. I think
insane
David's
on
like
mountain
pure
bike.
mountain bike now, right?
Which made sense for him because he kind of came in the scene. He reminds me of like Leandro Oliveira, the sick Brazilian
Yeah,
dude
yeah,
too. Where it's like, man, if you just grabbed a dirt jump,
Well, he
bike,
was
it'd be
riding
like-
all the slopestyle stuff on his BMX because his brother Simon, who's amazing on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they just ride the same stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a compound in their backyard
exactly.
too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
smart. Just grab the mountain bike. You got a series for it. And now
Totally.
he's
Yeah, I think he was
So
like.
It gave
I think
him
the last,
it gave him an opportunity to have more events because I feel like he only
That was
got
the
to do a
problem.
few BMX
and that's
events.
the thing
Exactly.
too is like when it's you get talented dudes and it's just like their style of riding. You know, somebody like Dennis who has tricks and stuff like that, but he has a wide range, a wide skill set. Where you get dudes like
It goes beyond this tricks.
Yeah, David is like he showed up to the first Dreamline in New Mexico and like killed it, and nobody knew who he was. But then those events started to like kind of go more towards on the mountain bike side, and he's like, "Well, actually, I don't have an avenue to do what I want to
Totally.
do."
That's
so
what I
I'm
was
gonna
saying,
go mountain
dude.
bikes."
Dude.
That's why I was saying there are like some dudes where it's like, dude, you should just grab a dirt jump mountain bike.
I
and,
mean, it's
like, why
it's
not?
been
almost-
crazy to watch dudes like him and Drew and Nyquist like to just be like, cool, like there's these events too, and they're fun. We're gonna come over and just do them, like just because they want to do like an event like
They
that.
want to stay
Yeah.
busy having
Yeah.
fun. Like I remember Nyquist telling me, like, dude, if I want to do dirt contest all year in BMX right now, I'd have like 2 or 3 options. And then he's like, in mountain biking, there's literally like 40. This was a couple of years ago, or however many years ago. It's like there's 40 things I could do right now.
Yeah.
Like Nyquist didn't get into mountain biking to ride money. He just literally he's a contest.
Dude,
machine.
he just come ride with us because we were the only people riding. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, I got
He
no
lived in Santa
BMXers to
Cruz.
ride with. And then he was
Mountain
like, he
bike
would just
world.
ride his BMX with us. And then he's just like, eventually like, well, Haro makes mountain bikes too, so I'm just gonna ride one of those with you guys. And then he was crushing it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Getting like podiums.
Dude, he
Big
got
contests.
podium at what was it?
That was the
Joyride?
coolest thing ever. I shared
Yeah.
a podium at Whistler Crankworks with Nyquist.
Yeah.
I was like, never in my wildest dreams would I
Yeah, that's
have thought
crazy.
that.
And he got podium or won elevation too. So like to think
Yeah.
that Nyquist has stood on the podium
Epic.
at Whistler for both
Oh,
the
yeah.
mountain bike, the gnarliest BMX dirt jump event and the gnarliest mountain bike dirt jump event. He's done them both. Like
And Nyquist was the
Legend.
last person to sit in that chair.
Yo.
And he had so much to talk about. I don't even think we made.
We
it to mountain
we
bike.
literally
No, for
were
sure.
over 2 hours, and we hadn't even like we talked about the Olympics, Mira, and his blue goatee, and we're like, oh,
Yo.
or it's going
Yeah.
over 2 hours.
you
That's gonna be
could
good.
probably interview him every day.
I'm
and
sure
he'd
he's
Yeah,
got a lot of
seriously.
stories.
We're
Yeah.
doing a part 2 for sure. When he comes back.
One thing about Nyquist too is I filmed like a Ratitudes thing with Drew when he was kind of doing the mountain bike stuff, and it was a Colorado event. I don't know.
I know which one you're talking
Yeah,
about. You're probably-
Boulder.
Yeah,
outside-
sorry. Trestle Bike Park.
Trestles.
Yeah,
Yeah. The crowd cheered for Nyquist louder than anybody else.
Oh,
there.
dude.
It was crazy. It was crazy
His
in the
name
sense
is
of like,
known
yeah, it was just
everywhere.
like, I
He's
was,
a legend. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, every single person in this crowd is a BMXer. Like, what the hell?
like
every
not- you
every
know, just in
mountain
the
biker
sense,
knows
like-
who Nyquist is.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
it's Nyquist. It's
Yeah.
like insane. And a huge shout out to him. Like he was like so sick to ride with when he was doing like, cause I'd be down here in the winters and he would be one of our homies that we'd ride with like on the daily. Like he's 40 whatever years old and he's the most motivated dude there. Like, like it honestly gave
He's
me
a man
like,
child for sure.
it gave me like, and I was in a weird like kind of transition too, cause I was still competing, but I was trying to transition out. Like I was like maybe a little burnt on competing and I was transitioning to try and do some other things that like I wanted, like, you know, the spark's there, but I want the fire. And he shows up this session and he's twice my age, basically. And he's more excited than I am. And I'm like,
Fire
okay,
never
I need
went
to like, not that I'm not stoked, but I need to figure something out. Because if he's this stoked and he's been doing it this long and he's done all these events, like, man, I want that to be me.
He's an anomaly, man.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, on BMX
But it was
trips,
so inspiring.
yeah.
he's getting up. I feel like piece of shit because he's getting up to go ride some transition spot at 6 a.m. and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And like same thing. I'm just like, how is he
Or he's like
doing
chirping
this?
you like he's the Grom at the session.
Yeah.
Like, oh, learn this trick. Try this. Try that.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, like he's calling tricks out for you. You're like, what?
Dude, when
He's
I'd
the
go
best.
film with Nyquist, he'd be like, "What should I do?" And I'd literally think I'd watch all his video parts the night before, and I'd be like, "Oh, what about this trick? Oh, I haven't done that since drop the hammer, but yeah, we could try that." You know,
Yeah.
he was down for anything. Like his age, his having kids, his workload, nothing ever came into play. He's just like, "Cool, yeah, let's do it." Like
That's cool. You guys got
He
to
is
get a little
gnarly.
taste
Dude,
of
it
Nyquist
was
in the mountain bike world there
rad.
for a few years.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And then Drew was kind of the opposite.
I never got to ride with Drew. Like I
love Drew, but Drew
Yeah.
is Drew.
Well, Drew's
You know.
riding though also is like we were talking about those skill sets. Like he didn't really necessarily. He wasn't like the do tour dirt jump kind of
No,
guy.
that
Like
was
which
a
he
weird-
didn't
that was
really.
random.
I don't think slopestyle. Like he got really good on a mountain bike. I haven't really ridden with Drew much, but I like know him because we're Red Bull Canada together.
His style was a little harder to translate. I
But
think.
it's
It
the
was the
slopestyle.
drop
The
aspect, I
slopestyle
think,
courses don't really like cater to his style. Like you put him in a skate park, he will find the craziest lines. But in mountain biking, there's kind of just one line. Like rarely do you get that opportunity to like jump over something or jump from one thing to another thing. And you know you're the only dude that's willing to do it.
No matter what, you have to have a handful of banger dirt tricks.
You
Like,
gotta have the
there's no
tricks.
beating around
You
that
gotta,
bush.
and you gotta have you gotta have a variety. You gotta step down tricks, drop tricks, like dirt jump tricks. You know, like the bones, the like hips, like everything like that.
What's
Like
a bone?
like boners. We call it boners.
It's like a log that just like a wedge.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's like a
All right.
step down wedge
It's,
usually.
cannon
right?
log
Yeah.
things. Yeah, like so like you have to have that variety regardless
telephone
of like regardless of you know being able to bring in some different things too. And I think that was hard for him is like he had tricks but like he wasn't able to like do his thing, like his really strong skill set because it didn't cater to him.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
he
he's
was.
like. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying where Nyquist can be competitive and have a conversation and not be worried about the competitive side, but also have that mindset. Drew only had a competitive mindset because I heard that Drew was like kind of came in and like didn't have the best experience with
I think
dudes at points,
he-
but it's like
he's
his
like-
mentality when he's there that kind of dictates that. you know?
I mean I don't
Well,
really know.
I'll just-
I wish
I'll
I
just
had
be-
I wish
I'll
I
just
had
be
talked
real-
to him about it to be honest.
Yeah, I guess I'll just be real in the sense like I went and filmed the Ratitudes thing not because I was the best filmer, but because Drew and I get along really well, and that's the reason why I was.
I wish Drew had like
you
a
know?
better. I feel like I don't know if he had like a good crew to like kind of like get involved with the
Bring him
slopestyle
in.
scene. Like if he was riding with like a crew of us that were doing it all the time, I feel like that would have been like more motivating for him to be like just have like a lot more fun with it, opposed to just being like, okay, I'm just going to the event, I'm going to try and do well.
Yeah.
Because that's what Nyquist was doing. He was just like indulged in our little crew and culture.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
He
it was
kinda got
a
involved in
total
that
different
I
thing.
think Drew
Yeah,
just
like he
wanted
like
to
literally
come
he
in
was
and,
just like, well, I'm
kick
already riding
ass.
mountain bikes. Why don't I just try an event?
Well, I think that was part of the problem because he had a camera crew following him
Yeah,
as
he
well.
put
where
that stress
Nyquist-
on him
Yeah,
instantly.
where like
Yeah.
where Red
Called him a
you know,
bunch of monkeys.
What was that?
He
Was
called
that
the camera crew a bunch of monkeys.
Oh yeah, it was
He
probably
not-
me. It was
not-
probably me. He's
Fudger.
but yeah, I think there was just all this added pressure that he
yeah.
needed to perform. Where Nyquist was like,
But he
like,
made
He
like,
didn't
that
you
care.
good?
He's,
better.
I've
Like,
done
right?
everything
Yeah,
already. Like
so,
I'm just doing this for
yeah.
fun.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
like,
I think if he would have came in and just filmed some crazy joyride stuff on his mountain bike, like
Would've been
that would have
nuts,
been
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
But like, I was surprised by coming in trying to go to like the gnarliest dirt comp and like make waves. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude,
I
that's
think-
a tall order.
I think people thought Nyquist was like kind of like a strange person to like get into it, but then like when I was riding with him, like there's no reason he couldn't do well at this because he was really good on like all the features. He used comfy on everything, and he's so consistent. And the slopestyle, we have like the courses are like 14 features long sometimes, and sometimes it's just getting down the hill. It's not even like who did the best tricks. It's like if you can trick everything, you're already going to be in the top 10.
And that's Nyquist shit. He's like, which way do you want? Regular, switch,
Exactly.
rocket, fucking.
He's
I
going
double
half
trucked off a
bars,
Penske
dude. He
truck
was going
10 years
half
ago.
bars into a whale tail to like the half truck at like it was like so insane.
And he
Like
had
stuff
tags on
that
his
no
mountain
one,
bike for a
yeah,
little bit.
rocket air stuff. You're like just and like owning it. Like it's like that's his skill set. Like yeah, bring it. Like dude, this is new and different. It's exciting for like the fans.
What I guess from is so you're completely only Rampage and projects.
Pretty much,
Is
yeah,
that-
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the- that's
It
the
keeps
end.
me basically flat out at this point.
And rally car. That's a competition.
Yeah, and then like I mean, I've always done rally. Like
Yeah.
over 10 years now, I've been racing, but now I get to do a Subaru Motorsport, so it's just like it's just like more of like a job. Like I'm doing the similar events, but now I show up and it's like okay, try and win, and like there's media around it and yeah, this and that, so it's more serious.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's like the highest end of rally car.
For like North America, it's like I'd say the American it's like a national championship.
NASIC, is that what it was?
ARA is like the championship.
Okay.
And then Subaru Motorsports USA is like who I'm like a factory team with. And it's, yeah, like the American series has gone off. Like there's so many good drivers coming in, like Ken Block's back in, and then there's like Barry McKenna who won the championship last year. He's like Irish tarmac champion, and like there's all these like really nice cars coming over from Europe, like of like good European drivers that are doing like ERC and like, you know, maybe some WRC event style stuff. So like proper drivers where there's like the top 10 cars are all like, you know, $500,000 cars.
Yeah.
And like anyone could actually win kind of thing.
How do you find time to practice that? You know, I know you've been doing it for a long
Because
time.
he's good at everything.
I know, but it's like with all this, like, do you have
Drifting razors around in the off season?
Yeah,
do you have a spot to do it at home, or?
Well, like, yeah, I'm some kind of product of my environment. Like, there's so many forestry roads at home, so that's how I got into it. Like, we use the forestry roads to go mountain bike. That's like we go shuttle up the hill, build trails down, and then there was a few rally. Like, there was like Subaru Canada was near where I lived, and then like Subaru Rally Team Canada. And then there was like some like privateer rally drivers. So that we'd always see like the rally cars on the FSR roads. And I was like, that's super cool. I want to do that. And I'm like, I don't have my license at this point, but I was just like, rally cars are cool. And then when I had the opportunity, like we'd drift around like beaters and things like that. Then I had the opportunity to like get a car and try this myself. And there was like, we could block roads, or I would go with the team, and they like, you know, we would do test days. And
How old are you at that point? You don't have.
I got a car when I was 19.
Okay.
18, 19 was my first rally car, a little production
Crazy.
Subaru.
Yeah.
And then I kind of.
So you're already a pro mountain biker at this point.
Yeah, at this
so that
point,
was
yeah,
like
yeah.
mountain bike money, and then you're like,
Totally, I was
spend
like,
a
I
little
was
bit.
getting a bit of cash, and then I had bought like a stock Subaru, and I was like rallying it, and I was like, okay, this thing's not really built to just go
Yeah.
out and smash. It doesn't have skid plates.
It's
It
not
doesn't.
like the
It's got
commercial.
street tires on it, things like that. And I was like, I mean, granted, I smashed the hell out of it, and it was fine. But I just went to the shop, and he's like, I'll just trade you your car for a production rally car,
Fuck yeah.
like a race ready car. And I was like,
Sweet.
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Like done. And then so I got into it that way. And then I was really fortunate, like so the guy that gave me the rally car, he was like, he's 5-time national champion, like Canadian rally champion, American rally champion at the time. And he built the car, and he kind of helped mentor me. And then like my best friend, Alex Pro, lived right across the street from this guy, Martin Rowe, who I met once. Like a friend of ours told him I was getting a rally car, and then he invites me over, and we like walk in his house, and he's like, the first thing I see is like WRC World Championship trophy. Like he won like first overall PWRC in like 2003 with Subaru, like proper driver. And I was like, oh shit. And he's like, yeah, dude, when you get a rally car, let's take it out. Like I'm so stoked. Like he just loves rally. So he's like, I wanted to be involved. So I like literally like, there's tons of construction going on at the time. I'm like, I moved to Squamish. I was like driving back up to Whistler, and I was in the rally car, and I'm just like stealing all the like the pylons and stuff on the highway, and I like pick them up, and we drive the rally car to like kind of
like make a course.
Yeah, there was like this little forestry road that's like no one ever goes out to, and it ends in like a big open gravel lot. So then I set up all the cones, and we just like spent like the afternoon like ripping this road and set a little like track out the back, and he's like showing me how to. He's like, here's the do's and don'ts. So like instantly I was like set off on the right path.
Crazy.
And a funny story of that, like ripping it all day, like no one is out there, like didn't see anyone all day. And then we like go to leave, and we're like rip the road back, and I'm like driving, and there's like a crest, and I come up over the crest, and there's like a police car like going away from us. And I was like, shit, like slammed on the brakes, and I like backed up, like reversed all fast, and I was all panic, and like drove like half into a ditch and got kind of high centered. And I was like, oh shit, like did they see us? Like no, like we're gonna get like in trouble, whatever, ripping a rally car around. Cops turn around, they come out, and they're like, what are you guys doing? And we're just like, oh, we're just like playing around, you know. We set up some cones back there, and there was like a guy and a girl cop, and we're like, what are you guys doing? Like no one's ever out here. Like why is there 2 cops out here? And then they're in like a big SUV, and we like they let us go, and we leave, and then she's getting into her little cop car, like just a normal sedan. And we're like,
Hooking up in the
yeah,
forest.
I was like, what are you guys up to?
That workforce love.
So yeah, so then I mean it just evolved. Like I use some side-by-sides for seat time, but really you don't get to practice much. Like simulators, it helps, but it's not like you get way better using a simulator, and then side-by-side stuff. But it's really just like you go to the event, you maybe get a test day, and you just try and learn as much as you can. Like just
That's crazy.
And the
But you
conditions are always
won,
changing,
right? You
like-
won something.
yeah, I won one last year. But yeah, I mean, I've won like some Canadian championship rounds, but then the American series has been like super competitive in the last couple of years. So it's like, yeah, it's like dudes go so hard, like it's flat out.
And
every
that's
stage.
their whole life. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you and Travis are doing a bunch of other shit, but like all those other dudes, are they primarily just racers? Like,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like Ken's full motorsport, and then Barry's like he's just been rally. Like that's what he came
Life.
up on. Yeah, it's life. And then I mean, Travis, like his path is really similar to mine, where he was young, got a rally car, and got into it. But like he started way before me, and he's been with Subaru like 17 years.
Crazy.
So it's like his experience, and he's also driven this car that I'm in for like 6 years longer than I have. Like I've only done 6 events, and he's been in the car 6 years. So like his knowledge of the car is so much more, and I'm just like trying to compete with these dudes. It's hard, but it's like it's such a fun challenge, and it's so motivating. Like separating myself. It's just the odd weekend, you know. Like I'm literally in the car for like one weekend for 8 months, you know. So 8 weekends out of the year, and I get in the car, and it's like I separate myself from biking, and it's like I'm gonna do this thing at like 100%, and then when I'm done with that, I'm like so motivated to get back on my bike, and like because I'm just like so juiced from
really cool.
doing
That's
this
cool.
cool thing, you know.
Is it just you and Travis Pastrana on the team?
Yeah, it is. I think Ken's gonna be driving a Subaru for the rest of the season now. So he's like kind of.
He was a Ford guy, right?
Yeah, he was a Ford, and then he was doing an event in like a European brand car at the last one. But he'll be like in the same car as us, but he'll be like his Hoonigan setup. So I think he's like sort of with us, but not Subaru Motorsports.
Okay. Kind of Hoonigan sponsored by Subaru.
Yeah, sort of that vibe.
What's scarier, rally car, going like 100 miles an hour in a rally car, or Rampage?
Rampage for sure. Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm like so excited when I get in the car, and I want to like push myself, and maybe it's like that ignorance of like not having a lot. Like I've crashed the cars a bunch of times, but I maybe never like. It's like bikes over and over over and over you've like hurt yourself, and it's like, oh, like this wrist, I don't want to fall on this wrist. I don't like, you know, like I've done this trick and it scares me now or whatever. But like in rally cars, it's all like pretty fresh, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go 100%. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's it doesn't really scare me. It's just so mentally challenging. Like I've never been like done a sport where it's like I can finish the day and feel like I could run a marathon, but my brain like I can barely think about like a simple math equation or just like what I'm going to do for dinner. Yeah. It's like it seems like it's
like 100% concentration 100% of the time.
There's so much going on.
I mean, that Instagram clip, I showed it to my wife, and I tried to explain like, hey, the guy's shouting directions like about 4 to 5 seconds before the obstacle comes up. Totally. And she's like, what the fuck? You know,
That's insane.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here? If you guys, is there like another league, like professional league, like you and Travis would go to, or is this the top of the game? Like,
I mean, for North America, this is probably like the highest level, but then you could go over and do some like World Rally and European stuff.
So to like, what would like the world champion, his category be in? Is that the World Rally, or would he be in North America?
World Rally, yeah. I mean, so like World Rallies all over the world. So there is North American events. Like I could go do like a North American stop that's a part of the World Championship. It's just like everything's on another level. Like the manufacturers are spending more money. The drivers are they're the best. You know, it's like.
So is there a Subaru team doing the world tour right now?
There was
like single A and double
so they
A.
haven't done WRC in a number of years, but they've won the WRC championship numerous times with multiple like very famous drivers. But yeah, they've been really consistent with supporting like North American Rally. So that's just like Subaru Motorsports USA is like kind of like the biggest program, and
that's cool. What a way to fall into it in a sense, you know?
So lucky, dude.
I
was literally like, it was actually Rampage last year, and I had done some events, and I had rented like a proper car, like one that I could actually kind of compete against the bigger teams. And it's expensive, right? Like it's not a cheap sport, and like mountain biking, like you don't like I do. I'm like fortunate enough that I make a good enough living to live comfortably, but it's like to rent rally cars and smash up rally cars. It's like it's just not realistic. So I did like a couple of events, and like the dude that rented me the car like gave me a good deal. I got
the idea that you can rent a rally car is
it's pretty crazy, and you can insure them too, which is also insane.
That is very crazy.
So I'm like in like a car that's like probably $300,000, and I like insure it, and like if I ball it up, I don't have to spend.
Well, like $1,000 for the day or something. Like what is?
It was like $2 or $3 grand to insure the car for an event. So like 200,
crazy,
250 kilometers worth of driving or something like that.
And if you total it, they kick you off the policy. And
that's the thing. The policy gets more expensive if you use it.
Damn.
Yeah. So
And then
it's
so
crazy.
like, do you have like a? Sorry, I'm just genuinely
No,
curious.
it's-
Is there like a deductible or something?
So
like
there is a deductible. It's like
Yeah.
10 grand.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
you do more than 10 grand,
So that's the
worth
thing. It's
of-
like you would never use it unless you were like, you totaled the car.
Yeah,
Like you're like,
yeah.
I did 30, 40 plus damage on the car. Like then I'll maybe think about using it.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah. So then
What
I
a
was,
concept. What a business model.
I got to actually like do it at like a really high level. This one year I did a few events and I had like good success, like had a good show at like an American stop and I won 2 Canadian stops. And that was like pretty much my rally season for that year. And I was like, you know, I did it. Like, I don't have money to keep doing this. And I was pretty much like done. Like that was it. Like, I'm not going to spend any more money in rally. Like, unless there an opportunity comes up where I have the means to do it. Like, I'd love to keep doing it. And then it was like Rampage, like in the middle of the build. And then like Travis hits me up and he's like, hey, like, want to figure out how to get you in the seat.
That's awesome.
And then we had done a test. I had done a test with Subaru USA like a couple years prior. And like, I never heard anything back after the test, but it was like a young driver. Like they were like wanting to feel out like younger Americans. And like, they never said anything to me, but they were like, you were like one of our picks and this and
You're
that.
like, well, I'm not American.
On
so.
the radar.
And that was the other thing. I almost didn't get to go because I was Canadian.
Oh, wow.
And then, but like the event manager at the time, he like really like him and Travis were really like, I think this is our dude, blah, blah, blah. And then I got the opportunity. It's like so surreal.
That's awesome.
It was
Yeah, it's
dude,
so cool. Yeah, I wondered how the
insane.
hell you got into it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Really, really lucky.
Any other projects? What I mean, you know.
Yeah.
He came down here just
Well,
with
that
BMX bike. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
just for a
pretty
little,
sick.
little
Yeah.
What kind of
vacation.
BMX? What kind of BMX bike do you have?
Shout out to Clint Reynolds. Hooked me up with a CCR just
That's sick.
recently. Yeah, I'm
Nice.
hyped on it. I got that bike and I ripped down for a few days. Pretty much when I get back home after this, I'm like straight into like a pretty big build project. And I was like, if I'm going to ride my BMX, this is kind of the last chance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my Airbnb was up and I was like, I should do something fun before I'm out of California.
That's
and
cool.
then, I figured rip down here.
Sick.
But,
Thanks for making the time to come do the podcast.
What
too.
sort? What sort
sure.
of? What sort of stuff do you ride when you're here? Like, where do you like?
Whatever this
We go-
guy shows me.
Yeah, we're gonna hit some skate parks. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck,
I
wish
feel like
could
for
ride.
him, like dude, I took him. He came out and rode street with us when I was in NorCal with Corey Martinez, and fucking did his first curved rail first try. Like, is like he could ride
That's
everything.
what
So it's
Dennis
like,
had some story about, like a manual bar or something like that.
The manual 180 when we were in
Yeah.
SF with them,
Oh,
like,
and the little-
it was taking everyone a while, and you did it like faster than most of the crew. In
Yeah.
the little dish thing.
No,
That was a
it's
sick little setup.
That
That was a crazy.
it was like a children's playground. That was
I know,
like,
but the
seriously a
skate park above it was
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
No,
That's
he
perfect
shreds BMX. I have so many people that hit me up that think that he rode BMX forever.
That's what
Like,
I mean.
it's like-
I was of that camp. Like
Yeah.
I figured he had some sort of early dabble days in BMX, and then mountain biking took over.
I wish I
So,
had that opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't need it clearly. So
Last year it was like just COVID. I found out I had a broken wrist,
Mhm.
but I had a broken wrist for like 6 months prior to like finding out, and like BMX was like bothering it a bunch. So like I hadn't touched my BMX for like a year and a half at least until like this winter. So now I'm like the fire's kind of like been restoked, and I've been like going out to the skate park more than I normally would.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah, I'm so hyped just to get on it.
cool.
What are you going home to do? Working on
Oh,
Yeah.
project?
So, I mean, there's a Red Bull project that kind of came up. I was like trying to figure out another Raw 100. It was like, yeah, obviously, I love doing those projects. Like they're just super fun, but it's so hard to find like a location to do it justice and then bring those ideas to life. And then this other thing came up, so it's still like slope bike, and I can kind of get creative with it. But it'll be like a bigger project. Like it'll probably consume like 2 months. The next
Dang.
2 months
Damn.
when I get home.
Is that average for a bigger project? Just like a 2-month?
This is pretty big.
So
Yeah,
that's-
like
that's on the
like
big
we'll do
scale.
a raw 100 will take like I'll spend like there's raw 100s where I've spent like a year just planning it, but typically the whole event from like build to like
finish.
to getting all the footage is like 2 weeks at max.
Crazy.
So it's pretty condensed. It's like when there's a plan, it's like we show up, build, and kind of overlap the shoot with the build, and it's done and we're out. Everyone's out. But this one's like the build's gonna kind of drag on for a lot longer, and then we'll probably spend a bit more time shooting. So I'll go back to do that guy. And then we got the X Games stuff coming out like a couple days here.
Oh, yeah.
You filmed a part for the real
For the real
mountain
MTB
bike?
stuff, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I'm hyped for that to come out.
Excited to see that. So that's only a couple days from right now.
Yeah, I think Monday.
Monday, yeah.
Sweet. So that'll be out already by the time
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
everyone will see
podcast
it.
comes out. So
Yeah.
everyone check that out. It's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm hyped for that. So that was like a pretty crazy one with like Rampage, like not knowing if Rampage was happening. Like literally like got a call from one of the Red Bull folk, and it was like we're only like 4 or 5 weeks out from Rampage, and then I got a call and they're like, yeah, it's not happening. And I was like, oh, crazy. Like I was thinking I had to be like full downhill bike, like on it for Rampage. And then like 3 hours later, I got a call from a producer at, one of the Real Series producers. And they're like, yep, so Real Mountain Bike's actually happening. You're in it. It starts right now. Like, go. I was like, all right.
So since it's coming out, did you win?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty stoked, man.
Yeah.
Dang,
Pretty
that's
crazy.
awesome. So did you do that more like project style, or did you just kind of film that more video part style?
Yeah, it was video part style. Like, and so we were talking about like BMX kind of being like a little bit more loose with like just going to spots and filming clips. And I was like, I had no plan at this point. It was like we were a month and a half away from it being like, I mean, even like maybe only a month away from it like snowing at home. So I'm like, I'm just gonna start shooting whatever. Like, and it kind of worked out where like it was sort of like the parts basically consist of like 3 main zones. So I ended up just filming stuff like nearby home, like in BC, just on the coast there, just to like get some tricks in the bag. Like I had some tricks, I knew I could do them on these features that were nearby, so we just like got those clips, and that was like one part. And then I had another zone where we had built a feature, and we didn't get to shoot it. So I wanted to go back and always wanted to like fix it up. It was like this big quarter pipe thing. I was like wanted to like steepen the landing and like ride it and get a couple clips on it. And there was some other stuff there. So we like went there and filmed that. And that was like the second part. It ended up like snowing on us and being like just nightmare shoot. But there was that. And then the third part was like this kind of gray zone in Utah. So I broke my wrist. I got surgery and I was like about to go into a project in California, but everyone was on their way like to come do this project. And I was like, no, like literally like 2 days later, I was getting surgery after I found out. And I rerouted the build crew to this like Utah zone. Cause I'm like, well, there's this other project that I know Red Bull wants to do. And I was like hyped on it. So let's go do that. And like, let's just build it and it's going to sit there and I'll come back to it whenever I'm healed and we'll film that. So we went out and like built for, like early March, and then COVID hit like really gnarly. And then that budget got pulled. So I'd like spent all this money on building this stuff in the desert, like 3 diggers, like myself, all the travel and everything. Like that stuff's just sitting there. I'm like,
Serendipitous.
yeah. So I'm like, well, let's just film it for the X Games thing.
That's
so
cool.
we ended up
So you
going
got
there.
to go back to a couple things. And
Yeah,
like,
it worked out perfect because like we didn't have a lot. Like even when I was shooting that stuff, it was like late November, and like I don't think I rode my bike. It was basically like freezing level every day, and I was like riding big features. It was kind of gnarly, but like we couldn't have timed it any better. And like if that stuff wasn't there, we would be stuck in a build, like trying to get stuff done, beating the weather, and yeah, it was wild. So
all worked
That's
out.
awesome.
it
Congrats.
did. Yeah.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, stoked.
And thanks. Anything else you got going on? Anything you want to talk about?
I don't know. Nothing I can really think of, to be honest.
Really
Just
appreciate
stoked
you filling us all in on the whole mountain bike industry and how you kind of got into it and everything. Because I know we've met a few times, but I didn't know any of those stories and how it all came about for you and everything.
For sure, man. Yeah. It's I feel like our worlds are really close, but they're also like we don't like maybe understand each other's like industries as much as we'd want to, right?
Yeah, really
Yeah,
cool.
it's pretty
Thanks for
cool.
all the information. And anyone listening, if you don't know who Brandon is, type his name in on YouTube and have fun because you got some
It is
really
nuts.
good,
It is wild.
good, motivating, amazing stuff.
Go
all
through
over the
a
internet.
wormhole for
Yeah,
a little
you
bit.
get
Appreciate it.
stuck.
The manual backflip.
The manual backflip.
I was
one
all-
of many. That's like
Dude.
almost like every big project that
Yeah.
drops. Like there's something that's like okay, game change.
I meant to circle back to that when you brought up the Raw 100. Like how long is that in your head?
That one was really random. Like I had thought about it and I had like loosely talked about it with someone, but I was like, oh, there's no way. And then I broke my wrist and I had surgery, and we like literally like straight out of surgery, I had like 5 projects. Like I did, I think
Break your wrist a lot.
No, like sorry, it was all like a lot happened in the last year, but like I had surgery and I was off the bike for like 3 months. But I knew like I was like going into like there was like a Red Bull project, and then there's this like TGR project, and then a Trek thing and Raw 100. Like it was already all planned. Like I'd been working on this forever, so like there was all this stuff going on, and I basically like I didn't have time to practice for that Raw 100. But I had all these ideas in my head, and I had another drop trick in mind for this setup because I knew that setup was there, and I was just like not feeling it because I like felt like I need to be like more technical. Like this might sound weird, but I feel like I need more technically dialed than the Manny flip.
What was it? I have you not done the tricks?
I haven't done it. I'm gonna
Okay,
save that
we'll
one.
save that.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, and then I was just like playing around at home, and I was like, I think I can do it. Like I was just like riding with my buddy. I just got back on my bike. Like I was like maybe like 2 weeks into riding again, and I learned it at home. I'm like, cool, there it is. I got an ender. It was like the first time I've ever done a raw 100 where I like knew what the ender was before all the other stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Was it? Do you have suspension on the bike? Or
Yeah,
is
it's it's
on the
short
rear
travel,
suspension?
rear and front.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does the suspension help with the flip then? Like kind of a preload thing?
Kind of helps. It doesn't load up a lot. Like it doesn't move a ton, but yeah, it definitely helps a little bit. I mean, granted, the trick would work fine on a hardtail too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The suspension on those bikes that he's riding is literally like
really progressive.
You're not using it for anything. It's like it's there. I feel like it's there for when you land flat and
Yeah,
like
okay.
it gives
If
you
you
a
go
little
huge.
cush, but it's
All
not like a normal mountain bike where you get on it and it just
Like
fucking bounces.
yeah.
Like
Pillow
it
status.
feels like a BMX bike with a hair of
Or if
give.
you ever got on like someone's like supercross moto,
Okay.
it's where it's like the suspension doesn't move, but they're making it work.
All
It's
right.
like that. Yeah.
Okay. What how many tries?
So we like tried to film it one evening, and it was like we had filmed a bunch of tricks and we only had like a small window before like the light was gonna get too dark. And I think I'd done like a couple manis off it, and then I think I maybe got sketched out a couple times running up, just like put it down. I was like,
Yeah.
And then I did one and I tagged, and I was just like wasn't gonna take it. And then I went up to keep trying it, but it was already like kind of getting dark and it was getting windy, and I was like, let's save it for tomorrow. Like, let's make sure we shoot it in like sick light. So we went back the next day. I think I manied off it a handful of times, and then I got it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's a crazy one because like normal tricks where you just send it, you can just like, all right now and do it. That
Yeah.
one's like locked
Yeah.
in, like
all that time.
The
a
Manny
lot
has-
of time to think
Dude,
about it.
it's so much time to think about it, and the scary part is like,
Looping it out right at the end.
well, looping it too early, you'll hit your head.
Yeah.
And like when you're manualing and it's like you need to like get it up, like you almost let the front wheel dive a bit before
Yeah.
you start
Yeah.
to like loop it.
Uh-huh.
So it's like you're going like fast at this drop, and it feels like you're like trying to like get the nose dip so you can get the preload going. But it's like you don't know if you're gonna even get it up. Like you're coming to the end of the drop, and are you just gonna go OTB off the end because you didn't get it to
yeah.
like come back, swing back up on you? So it's like the timing was like so like I would always like so the first one I was just being like really conservative, and I timed it too early, and I ended up like flipping like maybe a couple feet earlier than I should have.
Was your head closed?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And that's why I
landing.
cased.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the next time I'm like, well, like, okay, I got to go faster than I think, and I got to wait longer. So it was pretty scary. Yeah.
Do you like at your compound at home? Do you set it up, practice it before you go?
Luckily,
pile
I got to do
leaves or
this
something
one.
like
Yeah.
that?
Luckily, before this,
You have an airbag set up or something.
I had just put one together. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why I got to actually
That's
try it,
cool.
because there's other tricks I haven't had that
Luxury.
of trying. Yeah.
When you're doing stuff like that, like
Yeah. I mean, even the airbag was
2021.
terrifying. I didn't want
It's
to.
like it's not one of those things that you even
Still-
probably need to learn. It's just you're building your your mental
Totally.
confidence.
It was
you know,
really
So,
breaking that wall of like I think it works in my head, but I don't actually know if this is gonna go. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get stuck upside down or something. Yeah.
crazy.
it's like when you're going to a slope event, you're practicing all
Everything.
season into all the airbags, foam pits, and stuff. So it's
You're
like
doing
when
the
you're doing a
same 14
project,
tricks,
when you're
yeah,
doing a
all year.
project, why not get it down before you go?
100%. And that is my mentality. I definitely prepare a lot. So,
Should.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff you put out and like.
And I don't want to be hurt, man. Like I love riding my bike, and the last thing I want to do is just like go into something unprepared, hurt myself, and then not get to enjoy riding my bike for a number of weeks or months. And like that's what like honestly scares me more than anything else. Like I don't care to deal with the injuries, but like being off my bike's really hard for me, like mentally.
Idle hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with how much time you spend making these projects happen. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you spend that same amount of time making sure you have all the tricks
Being
dialed?
prepared,
Like,
yeah.
cool, I'm going to spend a year planning this project, and then what, you're just going to go huck some shit? Like,
And again, I think it goes with like the investment too. Like there's like someone like whether it's me or a brand like putting money into this, like I don't want to show up and like blow it and look bad, you know? Like, oh, we didn't get it done. Sorry, I like did a stupid thing.
yeah, we built something that didn't work. It's
Yeah,
like,
totally.
like, that ain't going to
Yeah,
fly.
you have so much experience. You've done it over and over again. You understand now, like to keep this ball rolling. Like,
Yeah.
you can't get
There's a
hurt
bit
on
of
the
a
second day of
formula,
the shoot
and
or the
you know,
first day
you
of
know
the
you
shoot.
got to put the work in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That's all I got.
Well, thanks, man. That was super
Yeah.
motivating.
Thank you,
So
guys.
fun to listen to, and thanks for stopping by and doing this.
Dude, thanks for
Truly
having me on.
grateful.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
Awesome.
You're the man.
Thank you, dude.
Oh.
Ooh.
Cheers, boys.
Christian, thanks for
Oh,
sitting
yeah.
in.
Oh, Christian's
Christian's
here.
here.
Come
Hell yeah,
here.
thanks. Thanks, everyone. Unclicked. Peace.
Cheers.
Yep.